All right. Well, I'm live now. That. All right. See ya. See, this is why I don't like my phone. I can't even hang up properly. All right. So, y'all, it's the Iron Sun. I'm gonna talk about all kinds of stuff today. So, I got some guests that are coming on, and we're gonna talk about stuff. Y'all see in the title, I said a woman would rather tame a lion than turn a domesticated cat into uh, a wild beast. So yeah, it looks like we got one. Oh, it's working now.
I'm on my phone now. Yeah, my computer's not working very well. So
Yeah, so I was doing the introduction. So I'm the Iron Sun, and y'all know I had Adam on before, and we're going to talk about all kinds of various things. Um, I like to start out with little casual conversation topic pieces, and then we can go into the most extreme. So I
okay,
got something I was thinking about today was that um, for my channel's purpose is that a woman would rather tame a wild lion than to she'd rather do that than find some domesticated cat and turn it into a wild lion, you know.
yeah,
um, so that like has a lot of implications for today's generation, the millennial generation, because the men have kind of been for lack of a better word, sterilized via chemicals, all kinds of stuff, but then also uh, just like very small incremental systematic socialization has been going on, which I know you say your dad just like really sad to hear about that. Um, so the third guy, he's gonna pop in any second. He actually
okay,
just woke up.
that's fine.
I think he fell asleep. Um, so with that, so with the introductory, um, for me myself, I can say I was actually starting out. I was the house cat.
Hmm.
I think all guys, in my opinion, I think all guys start out as the lion. Like guys start out as alpha, but then, and granted, there are some guys that are more alpha than other guys, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means you come into the world with the energy you're given. But then a lot of that, some guys it gets beaten out of them. Some guys they thrive even when uh, even, I think those would be the types that are really good with women, like the philanderers. Um, some of them, not all of them. Some of them just they
Yeah,
maybe they have one woman that they're actually tied down to. So the guy has alpha traits, but he's actually just going after one. Um, I would think that guy, particular kind of guy, is rare because um, the average guy, if the average guy could attract the attention of most women, they'd be sleeping around with multiple women. Um, so my guess is that the average guy, once
well,
they
they would for a few years, and they'd realize more women, more problems.
oh man. Okay, maybe
It's
I
hard. It's
learned.
hard enough to keep one. It's impossible to keep one happy. Why would you want to? Why would you want to try to wear yourself out keeping more than one happy?
I've learned not to keep them happy at all.
Yeah. Well, because that's
Well,
kind of trying to
I'll tell
figure
you
out
what
what
I
they're
mean by
thinking.
that. So I'll tell
So
you. Oh, is that a better angle?
I'm trying to find good lighting in here.
I don't know if I got a. I think my lighting's good because I got a big screen with. I usually don't really pay too much attention to it, but then people complain about it. Like, hey, your lighting's bad. Then I'll do something.
Yeah.
Um, so I think what I was getting at is that I don't know, guys. That's kind of the trick. If you don't pay attention to the happiness, what I mean by that is, if you don't pay attention to the happiness, then it becomes easy. Um, Basically, you still want to do good things for your partner and stuff like that and make them happy and all that. But in my
Yeah.
opinion, focusing on keeping a creature who is designed to go through emotional roller coasters in one emotional state, that's just like trying to make what is it trying to make? That's like trying to take Niagara like a big waterfall and
Yeah.
trying to turn it into a quiet lake. I think that's retarded.
Yeah.
I'd rather do
Well,
some judo kind of style thing and just kind of roll with the momentum, you know?
yeah. Yeah. And the key is, yeah, you waste your whole life trying to figure out what they're thinking, and it's not our job to make anybody else happy. It's you
Not at
control what
all.
you can control what you can control. And so if you're trying to make somebody else happy and they're still unhappy, and that makes you unhappy, now you got two unhappy people.
Yeah, and
That's misery.
that's one of the traps that a lot of guys have been brought into,
Yeah.
uh, especially the younger guys, because the younger guys they were raised. A lot of the younger guys were raised by their mom, so they spent like half of their lives trying to make their moms happy. I speak from experience with that. Um, that was something that held me back from actually progressing in my own life for a long time.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
helped
That's
me.
that's miserable.
It held me back from like trying to achieve my own personal goals, my own personal growth, all
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Yep. Yeah. That's not good, man.
Let me check on a third guy real quick and see what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, I think he's getting his setup
Okay.
going,
Good.
and I'm gonna let him know we're live right now.
Okay.
All right. Have you ever heard of Prime Minister by any chance?
Oh yeah. Did you see his deal at 107
What is
yesterday?
that recent?
Yeah, yesterday. He was a good one.
Oh, I didn't know he had one yesterday.
Yeah, it was really good.
Man, it'd be cool to get 107 on one of these.
Yeah, he's a hard guy to get.
I don't know. I couldn't get on you. I couldn't get him on YouTube though, even if I tried.
It'd be really cool to get him on where you can actually see his face.
That
Hmm. Might see some
everyone
JFK. Might
who
see some JFK Jr. out of that. I don't know.
maybe. I mean, I know the rumors.
Yeah,
I definitely don't think that guy's dead.
I don't either.
I'll still be freaked out to find out he's alive, even though I don't think he's dead. I'll still be freaking out just like everyone else. Be like, oh shit, he's alive.
That's. I think that's going to be when we know it's all done.
Thank God, man. This is, ugh. It's like
Yeah,
waking up in a nightmare that only
it's
you know
miserable.
about. It feels like I wake up in a nightmare that only I know about or that only I'm willing to admit. And I'm just
Yeah.
walking around
Well,
people because I know people
around a bunch
know
of
better.
zombies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and some of them aren't though. That's what's funny. Like you talk to them and they know it's bullshit, and you're just like, why aren't you saying? It's like,
Yeah.
uh.
Well, in a time of war, there's what three reactions. There, there's the people that hide, the people that run, and the people that fight. So those are the ones that hide. They don't disagree with you. They're just afraid to fight. You know, and even the ones that run don't disagree with us. They're just afraid to fight too.
You know, I don't. I have a feeling that we don't die. I mean, I know my body would die, but I'm pretty sure I'm a spirit. So
Yeah.
I'd just come back. Hopefully, I wouldn't come back ugly the next time around. uh,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not
Well, ugly is
necessarily
ugly is a perception, though. It's
basically. I
you
mean, I'm
know.
not. Look, I'll be honest. I'm not the bravest guy. Like, I don't think the average guy would be the brave. I think when guys figure out they're brave whenever it hits the fan. I think for a lot of guys anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
for me in particular, like my,
I'm Scottish Irish with some Apache in me, so I think I fight. I
I'm just
just
being honest. I don't think
and
I'm not the kind of guy that'll walk in the bar and just headbutt some guy that just pissed me off because he looked at me weird. I'm not that guy. Like, I don't
yeah.
shoot from the hip. And
So
sometimes it seems like being that kind of guy, like that's the bravest guy. Just in my opinion.
yeah, that's not the brave guy. The brave guy is the guy that's taking it all in.
Was
He
like,
just
I only act whenever, like, if someone goes beyond my principles, like that's when it, like if they were trying to force me to get a vaccine. Whoops,
yeah.
supposed to say that. That's when I gotta pull something out and be like, okay, are we doing this? Because you're
Well,
forcing me to do this,
that's
and you're
why I got
pretending
on
I
here.
don't know what you're doing, huh?
That's why I got on this call because I was a little in a comatose state of complacency from what I told you on the phone call, and then I was like, wait a second, who cares?
Well, they're fucking losing. Like,
Yeah, I'm like
I
I'm getting
mean,
on. It's temporary. It's fake money that's been around for centuries. It's getting ready to probably all change. And you know what? If 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 I do this, how many other people will do that? You
yeah,
know. And then I thought about Scott, and all of people. We talked about Juan. I don't know. There's hundreds of them.
hey, before I bring on the third guy, he's in here. I have to ask
Okay.
you because, um, so, um, camera doesn't want to work. Camera doesn't want to work. Oh, that's fine. We don't have to see your face. I mean, if it makes you feel better, I could just whoop. You can look at my majestic logo. I'm gonna bring him in here, but before we do that, just kind of want to do. So now that we have everyone in here, I'm gonna do introduction with
Okay.
everybody before we bring the third guy in. Actually, I'm gonna bring the third guy in, and we're gonna do the introduction. All right, so
Okay.
everybody, I'm the Iron Sun, and I'm here with my guest Adam Davidson and Warrior Scholar. We're just gonna chat, shoot the shit about what's going on in America, um, about women, you know, basically anything that's super important and super casual as well. Of course, y'all know how my platform is. We like, I'll talk about something super casual, and we'll go into something super deadly serious and have a smile on our face. So yeah, Eric. Oh fuck, I said it wrong.
Hello. What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
Just another beautiful day.
Yep. Another gift, right?
Absolutely. Every day you're alive.
Warrior Scholar, can you hear us?
Absolutely.
All right, so what we were talking about, I'm gonna get you up to speed. Um, before I do that, do you want to give any type of introduction? If not, we'll go ahead and get in.
Hi, my name is Eric. I am a veteran and reaching the end of my college career. I have quite a bit of life experience, and I am here to share my opinions on things and hopefully help people along. These are difficult times, you know. A lot of people are looking for answers and and purpose and meaning, including myself, for that matter.
Well, thanks for your service, Eric.
Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. So we started with the most casual topic ever. We were talking about like fresh and fit stuff. So I had put in the title a woman would rather tame a lion than turn a house cat into a wild animal.
Hmm. All right. Uh, what does that exactly mean to you?
To me, um, it means you got to come in with some rough edges into the like in terms of like
Yeah,
interactions with men. A lot of guys have to come in with the rougher edges because otherwise she's not going to have anything to sand.
I gotcha. Well, thankfully for me, all my edges are rough.
Oh, he's gone. Okay, there. Okay, he's back. Oh no, he's gone. Okay, he's back. Okay, he's
Uh,
back. His video cut up.
if being rough around the edges and imperfect is a precursor and a requirement for a good relationship, then I must have a one up on everyone if that's the case.
Ooh, I don't know if it's a good relationship. Well, you're probably right. I think I think it's just good bait
I
because
am.
I've
I could
noticed
see
with
myself as the most imperfect here, but we'll find out.
yeah. I mean, some guys have there's different different guys have different tackle boxes, and they bring out different lures, and whether it's for women or jobs, it's every guy has uh, their own particular lure that they use for each individual endeavor they're trying to go into.
You don't need a massive lure to catch a shark, or it's not the size of the lure; it's how you flick your rod.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that was
Or
great.
it could just be how much blood's in the water,
Ooh,
There you go.
right?
ooh,
That's interesting.
no doubt.
All right, so I'm going to
So,
segue from that topic. Let's go into gun rights. Has
All right.
anyone heard anything on that?
Uh,
I think I
well,
heard something out of New York um, with some legislation they were passing there with the legislation.
okay. What legislation are you speaking of specifically?
I don't know, actually. Maybe I could do a search real quick and share screen.
So I suppose has this been covered before? If it hasn't, then why don't we go around and kind of let everybody in on how we think about the Second Amendment, starting with you, Iron Sun.
That actually sounds like a good idea. Um, so I already gave you the long speech version of this, so I'm going to try to shorten it. Um, I believe when the big guy gets big enough that he can tell you what to do and you have to do it, or you're scared and you think you have to do it, that's a good sign that you need a gun to kind of equalize that situation. And that's why if anyone tells me that I shouldn't have the Second Amendment right and that I should have a permit, have some intricate permit in order to hold something for self defense, that's where I tell them to shove it up theirs. It's kind of where I'm at, and it's kind of funny because about a little more than 2 years ago, I wasn't really there.
All right, Adam, what do you think about the Second Amendment?
well, I think since they're already taking away our First Amendment, it's pretty important to go get you a pow pow right now, and it's not very hard to operate. And they don't kill people; people kill
Oh yeah,
people.
excuse
But
me, pow pow. Yeah.
so yeah, so I think everybody should have two or three, and they're already basically zipping your lips with what you can put out there. So I think having one will speak volumes when it comes time to needing it.
Good to go, sir. My personal beliefs are that the Second Amendment, although it is useful for self-defense and I myself enjoy hunting, that is absolutely not what the Second Amendment is about. The Second Amendment is about the eventual, if necessary, overthrow of the U.S. government to instill the God given rights that was the foundational beliefs of this country, to put it in just a blatant manner. Um, to go farther with that idea, I believe that the God-given rights that we as Americans hold on to uh, are not given to you by the state, but are maintained by force. Um, the Second Amendment is therefore the very foundation of all of our freedoms. It's the, how could you say, the safety catch, if you will, that maintains all the other freedoms. Because if you have no way to stand against your government or your leadership, then you really are in that position, I guess the postmodernist position of I have the rights that my government allows me to have, not my government respects the rights that I was born with.
Yep, fear tends to breed respect.
So that's my
Yep.
viewpoint.
If they have nothing to fear for you defending yourself, then it's over. So, and that's been proven in history time and time again. So, now I don't think we'll need as much artillery as we thought. Now that about 28% of the people have taken the jab, but we'll still need some.
Oh boy. You went there.
Well, it's remember, whenever you're watching the news or watching a speech, the first rule of propaganda is to accuse your enemy of doing what you are doing.
Yeah, it's
So,
projection.
absolutely.
And with a whole
Absolutely.
lot of gaslighting. Projection with a whole lot of gaslighting these days. And it's been that way for decades now, unfortunately.
And to anyone listening out there who's hearing us and having these conversations with other people, yes, they might be calling you crazy, but those people who are calling you crazy are absolutely the kind of people who would be more than happy to mindlessly lose every one of their rights before they even realize what's going on, because they don't understand the reality of what's happening.
Well, that's to me the whole idea of being a conspiracy theorist has completely changed into if it's opposite of what you're seeing on social media platforms and the news, then it's probably become conspiracy truth. There's a difference with conspiracy. Conspiracy is real. There's a difference if it's based by facts and if it's a theory. And unfortunately, the indoctrination of education is all about theory, and that's why kids aren't ready for the world when they get out of education. And so if we would go back to research and finding the truth and learn how to use our minds to look at both sides of the story in our own research, we wouldn't have any more theories.
Can we really call public school education anymore? I
No.
mean, I guess that's
No,
the
you
first
can't.
question.
It's an indoctrination camp.
In fact, you can just go to YouTube and video anything, and you can become a PhD in it. Just watch a video and you can fix it or figure it out. So I don't know why we're spending so much money on education.
Actually, that's almost exactly what I tell people, that most anything you would learn in an undergraduate degree can be found on the internet for free.
Well, it's because
Yep.
we're credential, like the Western world is a very credential based society, which is
It's called broke status, where you don't know who you are anymore. So you got to put a mascot of some fancy university on your backside so you can say that's who you are, because you don't have an identity.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and a lot of it's overpriced. So
It
that's
is
who people
absolutely.
become. That's who they associate themselves as.
Well, they kind of destroyed their own system by starting this little giant mass parade party we got going on right now. Because I'm pretty sure the universities are going to suffer from this pretty hard.
Well, they should suffer because they've been owned by the Rockefellers, just like Big Pharma and Big
Oh,
Ag and
thank
all of it.
God, man!
It's
I hate it.
poor
I
doctors
hated
aren't
going
doctors
to.
anymore.
I hated going to class for college. The way that
Yeah.
they were teaching, I always resisted it mentally because I could see what it was doing.
Yep.
I always felt like I was actually
Well,
getting better.
it's a way. you're paying money just to figure out what the teacher wants to hear. You give them what they hear if it's a subjective class, or you just figure out
Yeah.
a test and pass it and move on.
Yeah. Wow. That's a
So,
really good
and
way
you're
to put
paying,
it.
and you're paying for that. You're paying for that torture. You know,
So,
that's the sad
a-
thing.
as as myself going into the STEM field, I would say that like there, you know, a certain degree of education is absolutely necessary. I will also say though that there is no reason why, say, a biology degree should be a 4-year degree. The only reason that makes sense is
Yep.
because you are being retaught high school level information when you first start, and subsequent classes generally um, reteach previous classes as you go, and there is not the rigorous demands of the past placed on the individual, as well as how could I say this? Unfortunately, we also deal with where a say a biology student or somebody trying to get a I don't know a degree in math must take what literally adds up to a year and a half of classes that have nothing to do with their field, and you have
What?
to pay the same price for that year and a half of non
Well, don't you
connected
think that
classes.
any degree? Don't you think that any degree you could get rid of 2 years of it, of the stuff you took in middle school and high school that you're retaking the first 2 years of basics? I mean, I think you could get rid of 2 years and you go right into what your field of study is.
Well,
Um,
you can't do that because then a nation would be more productive and it'd be harder to take over. So,
well,
uh,
I mean, I could, yeah, I could fix a lot of those issues real quick. But what you're saying, Eric, was right because I studied chemical engineering and in chemistry, and so I took you got Cal 1, Cal 2, Cal 3, and differential equations, and I've never seen it used since I've gotten out. In fact, the one time I saw somebody try to use differential equations or diffie-q was down in Baytown in Houston, and they were bragging about it, and they were building a bridge on opposite sides to meet in the middle. And when they got to the middle, they were about a quarter of a mile off, and had to tear down half the job and just continue to build a bridge conventionally. So there's a lot of stuff in there that's like, is it the idea of the thought that goes into it, or is it really can you apply it? Is there application to what you actually are being tested on and having to study?
I absolutely agree. And you know you have to think if we can honestly say that college should be cut in half for a science degree, then somebody's English degree should not take 4 years. Um, I think
Yep.
the most heinous examples would be like going home to your parents and saying, "Hey guys, I'm $120,000 in debt for my gender studies degree." So, I'm eternally poor, if you will.
I- and you know what? They can go to Redbox, and for $1.99 they can rent Crocodile Dundee, and they don't have to spend 4 years and that much money on gender studies. They could just do the Crocodile Dundee check and know if it's a girl or boy.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Don't get us depersoned
The
here.
iron, the yeah, the Iron Sun.
he's coming at
I don't
the
think you've seen
alphabet
the
monsters.
Crocodile Dundee.
There's going to be an alphabet SWAT team bust through your ceiling in a minute. We're going to see it on camera.
Okay, I'm waiting. Hey, have you not seen Crocodile Dundee?
Years and years ago, sir. I remember the scene you speak of. Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. I want
Um.
you to explain it to everybody for me.
Well. Um. Paul Hogan. Uh, Basically listens to the orders of our illustrious leader and grabs them by the genitalia to figure out their born sex.
That saves 120 grand in 4 years of a gender studies degree. right there in 5 seconds.
Yeah, and then you got to pay 120 grand for the sexual assault case.
Well, you must have not done it right, because most of the time when I do it, they like it.
You must be famous then.
Yeah, you must be
Oh
extremely famous, so then they give you a pass, and they're just
no,
like,
I
okay,
most
he just touched my
It's
crotch, but he's a millionaire, so
I would
no I
seriously suggest that we do not discuss this matter further. But if you must, um,
no.
I love your editing, man. It's wonderful. My channel is too small for me to get destroyed.
ah,
Oh,
Although I
okay.
did get in trouble for, I got a warning for a TikTok video of all things. I put it on the stream, and they freaked out, and I was like, really? Over these brain dead TikTok videos? This is kind of it's kind of sad. Like
yeah.
I watch people like want to talk about something that's actually messing up like the American mind. TikTok. You get
Yeah.
people they'll they'll watch a video. The video won't really be about it. It won't really require any skill at all. But then no, it'll have like 3.2 million views just because people will get the reference, or I don't know. It's just kind of strange. You want to talk
But
about something that's dumbing us down? It's apps like that because it's actually socially. You're actually socially programming. It's actually programming people.
they got 40 seconds to waste.
Yep.
So
That
Iron
just means they
Sun
got
on
40
this.
seconds to kill. And it doesn't mean they liked it.
But then that short amount of time, they'll actually spend way more time than if they'll actually spend way more time than if it was like 10 minutes.
Well,
It's brilliant.
Yep.
It completely mind hacked them, but they don't even know it.
Yep.
so I must say, no corporation, TikTok specifically in this instance, is supposed to be your moral compass. Um, they are responding to the free market and simply giving you what you want. And
Yeah, and taking your
if,
data and information, and information in your phone and stuff. Yeah,
well, then you shouldn't use TikTok. But the fact
yeah,
that
that's what
people
I'm
do and
saying.
they're able to do these things show you simply that that's what the people want, and you got to give the people what they want.
Right
I don't
now,
If
have TikTok, so I don't know.
you know, you give people what they want when you can afford to. Right now, when the time we're at in history right now, we got to give people what they need. Uh, this
if
isn't
they
a
seek
good.
it out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm talking about for the sake of my channel, because like the people that come across this channel, they're gonna learn something they didn't know. At least if they delve into my videos, if they delve into some of the stuff that my guests are talking about, they're gonna learn some things that they didn't know, and they're gonna think about things in ways that they never thought about things before. That's the hope. Because what I'm saying about TikTok, like I'm not necessarily against the app itself. No, I don't like that people's data is basically harvested by the fact that they've been on TikTok. I don't like that. Um, but and I also don't like that they can get your information just off of you watching one video. That I mean, that's not something I don't think anyone would like if they knew about. Um, the thing is, a lot of these social media sites, they're cover ups for things that are much more sinister and dark, and that's part of like what is it, logbook. Like Facebook started off as like Facebook wasn't created by Mark Zuckerberg. It was created by the
No, start.
military.
Well, look. Well, you could go ahead and share a screen and look up Mark Zuckerberg's real name right now, and it will tell you. You could even on Google, they didn't block that yet. His last name is Greenberg, which is tied to what? If you look that up, it's tied to a Rockefeller. And there's no way that some kid in that movie, like How Stupid We Are, developed something that would have cost billions of dollars. That was taxpayer money, and that was a DARPA operation. And we're dumb enough to just give personal surveillance and all our information up on our 10% highlight reel. of what we want people to think our life is, without the 90% of reality, the struggles, the stress, the crap. It's just the 10% highlight. You know, it's a great way to dismantle society. You know,
So,
you got
Adam, I
spouses
agree
fighting and
with.
they're looking at their old high school boyfriend.
So, Adam, I agree with what you're
Go
saying.
ahead.
But so to what you said before, Iron Sun, uh, the reality is the people who seek out your channel are there to learn something. That's the point of the channel. In the same way, they desire to use apps like TikTok or Facebook for completely different reasons.
Yep.
Um,
Use TikTok to stop thinking.
I gotta tell you, man, most people don't think anyway.
Well, that's why
And
we're in this mess, Eric.
that seems to be the natural status of humanity,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you got a point. It's just at this point, man, I'm just kind of tired of this.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know.
I agree, but that is on the individual to choose to change their lives and the way they use their time.
Yeah, their freedom. Hey, can you put me a logo up like that? Because I'm gonna get ready to jump in the car and stay on.
Talking about Eric's or
Mine. Can you block me on there? Because I'm gonna be loading up and I'm gonna stay on this and visit with you guys while I'm driving.
I don't think I can do that. You have to do that on your end. You
You
got like
can
Okay, let
stop
me
your
look.
camera and whatever avatar you have set up should come up.
go to Google, type in a picture, and like try to download it or something. He's on a phone, Eric.
I got you.
Yeah. So then I can.
Yeah, I mean that's good enough.
And there's a
But if you
sharing.
find a picture, it'll come up.
I'm trying. Okay, I'll get one on there in a second. I don't want to offend you guys.
No, you're
You
fine,
guys are a
sir.
lot more professional than I am.
Not at all. Not at all. Um, I think,
Let me see
unfortunately,
if
what
this
we
one works.
find with apps like TikTok or Facebook, any of these social media groups, it is unfortunately
That's very
the
good taste.
result of the free market, if you will.
You like my
It's the
picture?
result of the free market, and you're giving people what they want with a little something extra. But it is, again, on
Second.
the individual to understand what they are doing with their lives and with their time and with their money. And it is not the job of some corporation to be your moral compass. And if somebody must rely on a company to be their moral compass, um, well, damn, I gotta say, I I feel for you. That's awful.
Yeah.
That's good if the company's
Yep.
just trying to sell something to you. But if they're involved in a more sinister plot, it's a different story for me personally.
Well, you know, they can't do
So I'm saying I
anything.
agree with you, but I only agree insofar as the company is like
I,
is just selling a product. Because if
I
you're trying to do more than sell a product and you're actually working with like 3 letter agencies to disrupt people's lives and lie to them, that's a different story. Because you got Google, Facebook, YouTube censoring everything, every bit of crucial information that could be sent out uh, to the average American in less than seconds.
and I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah,
That's
they're in control.
absolutely unacceptable.
That said, these companies cannot do anything with your information, um, or your data, or anything of that nature that you don't sign up for, that you don't agree to. Everything they do
Yeah, everybody signs up
is
for it.
yeah,
That's
they're not. It's not their job to look out for you, right? You have signed your name and said, "I agree to everything that they want to do as they wish to do it." And you know, if people refuse to do a simple few minutes of research to understand what's really happening here, then it, basically, I fear that we are not placing enough. How could you say? Uh, the individual has to have some responsibility for their own lives and well-being. It is not the government's job, and it's definitely not corporate America's job to look out for you.
Yeah.
And the fact that
No, I
young
agree. But the
Americans really
accountability
believe
is
that,
gone though for people.
yes, and that's
Is
literally
Joe
their
Biden our
fault.
president?
That is the fault of those individuals. And so, um, most likely, if someone is experiencing those things or understands them at this point, and maybe that's why they've come to this channel. Um, but that said, the algorithms, let's say the YouTube algorithms that show you these time wasting videos, that the marketing is so good that it is scientifically programmed to grab your attention. That is literally giving people what they want. And want, if they weren't okay with it, if they didn't actually want it, then they would be doing something else with their time. But we do have to operate from a place of individual responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I think people have to be careful as well because to add to that, because a lot of these sites are intended uh, to kind of grab your attention in such a way that, like with Facebook, they know they can actually track where your eyes are looking on the page. I guess a lot of sites can do that, but they have teams of psychologists uh, available to help figure out how to make the app, how to keep people's eyes on the app for as long as possible. I think that's actually where we got the scroll down, the the newer. I'm pretty sure you all know about the layout with Google Images. Pretty much any site you will go on has that particular system where you scroll down and it never, like, I think they moved away from showing the numbers on the bottom, but it's just like you just keep scrolling down just like your phone.
Um, so what point are you making with that statement, or what's the implication you're trying to draw attention to, rather?
So here's the thing. So the fact that we're all responsible for our own actions, that's noted and it's important. But um, I think uh, people have to understand and have to be willing to entertain uh, the sinister nature of things, um, that they may not be privy to or that they may not be comfortable with. I think that's kind of where we're at right now, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Is that yes, individual responsibility is important, but
Well,
it's also
I mean,
important to recognize.
but we're at a totally different time because even the youth is starting to pay more attention. In fact, they're more awake than my age, and I'm, you're talking about a guy in his 50s, your late 40s to mid 50s. I'm more worried about these kids' parents because they're educating their parents. They're starting to figure it out. I'm telling you, the best thing that happened was, unfortunately, they shut things down, and they told people to put masks on their face that don't even stop the smell of a fart getting through. But you harvest bacteria, and it's bad for your respiratory system, your throat, and it doesn't stop a virus, but it stops bacteria in, and your mouth puts out the most bacteria in your body, and it harvests on your face. That forced everybody to think of, look at how fast all the things we've been programmed with fear have been put in our mind that they can snap their fingers, no law, no mandate, and just tell people to wear a mask. And all of a sudden, we got 90% of the sheep out there getting mad at people that aren't wearing a mask. I think we're beyond the point of the 40-second TikTok right now because now you're starting to see actually valuable TikToks that are calling out some of the crap that we went through the last year. I just saw one
Actually,
yesterday
yeah, that's
of a
true.
young guy that's like 23, and they filmed him going after the business community with the data that they were lying about somewhere. I don't know. I don't know if it was Michigan. No, San Diego. It was a guy in San Diego, a young kid, had long locks, good-looking kid, and he was hammering their butt, saying that we got 3.3 million people here, and we averaged about 100 deaths per month in the peak of COVID. So something's going on. And that was a TikTok video where they put him on there for 40 seconds. So we're actually starting to see something of knowledge and value finally come, other than some airband lip sync dance thing on TikTok, or some hot dog eating contest, or some 400-pound guy shoving hot dogs down his throat, or some big old girl on there and she thinks she's famous, but 90% of people are watching it because they can't believe what they're seeing and they're making fun of it. So the value is kind of transitioning, I think, out of that too, which is kind of cool to see.
Oh, that's the natural flow of things.
Yeah.
As people
So
figure
I mean,
things out, things
I
change.
think we're beyond that. I think we're just finally at a good point. I think whatever the plan was, it backfired because it gave people time, and it took so much of their freedom away, or created so much control, that it kind of jolted people out of that comatose state of complacency that we've been in for decades. Kind of in the hamster wheel of chasing things that don't matter and wondering why when we get them we're not happy, and then we chase the next thing. I think it really opened the minds quite a bit, which was, to me, refreshing to see.
Well, we'll see what happens on that subject. This is unfortunately a thing that this is unfortunately a situation where if you look at, say, the Gulag Archipelago, and you start to realize when people have had their rights taken away in the past, people might ask, like, why are you so adamant about fighting? Why are you so non-compliant? And simply put, I tell them, because I don't get to say I told you so until everything is already gone.
So it's gone. It's too late. Yep.
Absolutely.
It's too late.
We
So,
a day may come
yeah.
where we're sitting in the gulag, sitting in the political prisoners camp, right next to a leftist that would have been happy to be a desk murderer for us some time ago. And when our property is seized and our goods are taken and our careers are gone and we don't know where our families even are, then what you end up then when our lives are ruined and our country is gone, then we will be able to say I told you so once it's too late. And that has been the historical reality of the thing.
When you've lost all your God-given rights, that's too late to say I told you so.
Well, that historically
so
seems to be the reality of the thing.
Yeah. Well, it has until now. It's not going to happen here. It's just not. There's because their projection, their gaslighting, is an exaggeration of propaganda. Their 25% of the unvaccinated people causing a problem is really more like 70% of the unvaccinated people that are too damn smart to put nanoparticles and bullshit and mercury, and all kinds of other poisons in their body, so they could shed. In addition to that, the Delta variant that's spreading, that's the COVID, like the influenza they put in the flu shot. That's what's spreading. It's the vaccinated people. So there's too many people here that didn't fall for it, and that's why they're going to suddenly give you $100, or give you a car, or give you free food, or give you a lotto ticket, or spend taxpayer money on a marketing campaign. It's not working. It's just not.
The free donut, the free donut would probably actually work on me in a different timeline, though.
I will do literally anything for a free
Yeah, if
donut.
you were 10 years younger.
Right now,
So
I will literally do anything for a free donut, no doubt.
you would get the
Free box
jab.
of donuts, and man, I'm your crisis actor. You give me a whole box full.
Because I mean, I thought about it. There is probably a
Well,
timeline. There's probably a timeline where I actually don't know about what's going on, and I end up taking it, and it's probably because of the donut. I'm serious though.
So realistically, I probably, from my time in the military, I probably have 2 dozen anthrax vaccinations, right? Um, a lot of this technology is
yep.
very old technology, and we have to be careful because our political opponents would love for nothing more than to be able to directly associate someone who does not trust what's going on right now and um, the jab, if you will, made in the timeline. It was not only the timeline, but the political misgivings and mistrust based around it. We have to remember that like we are not anti-vax, right? This isn't that, and I've
No,
heard
I'm
that
not.
from a
I'm not
number of
anti.
people.
I'm not anti-vat.
But yes, but we have to be careful about that
Yeah.
distinction because our political opponents would love nothing more than to be able to just say, well, you you don't trust this jab, so therefore you are anti-jab as a whole,
Well,
regardless of how old the
there are.
technology is.
Here's the thing, though. There are a lot of jabs that aren't
What?
good. I mean, you got the MMR jab.
Yeah, there are.
That's associated. That's linked with autism. So, like, regardless of whether someone wants to call me
Yeah.
anti-vax
Well,
or not,
yeah. He-
they're they still have vaxes that don't like that haven't really done a lot of good for a lot of people.
Now, we have to be
yeah. Well,
very
look at
careful with
hepatitis.
this.
It increased HPV.
We need to be very careful about this because the world before these technologies was was a very
Was can
very
was
dangerous
cancer
world.
free.
Excuse me?
Yeah, it was cancer. It was cancer free. You're right. It was a very
Uh,
dangerous world. Look at the increase of cancers after vaccines came out.
so understand that
Go ahead and research it. Just like
yeah,
look at the flu. Look at the flu season, how it expanded when they got
so
everybody to start taking the flu shot.
we have to slow down a little bit and be careful about this because with the timelines we are talking about right now, we are also dealing with incredible differences in technology and our ability to diagnose cancer, as well as we are saving people from other things and allowing them to live long enough to get cancer. That's a very key element of this. We cannot forget that in the past, someone may have a cause of death as old age, died of multiple organ failure, whatever, what have you. But now we can specifically say when someone dies, like, well, we picked this particular, a few cells out that show that they had this kind of cancer, or we are able to basically, we're able to pick up things we used to not be able to pick up, as well as we are able to save people from other things that would have killed them before they had the ability to get cancer, let's say.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
Yeah,
here's the thing.
we can agree to disagree on that because now you want to get into big ag and big pharma, which I worked with, and the manipulation there that's all tied to big pharma, and so I just can't agree with you on that. I just can't. I researched too much data. I've looked at HIV, HPV, and all the things that came out, the flu shot. I think there are vaccines that worked. You know, you get the polio vaccine, you shouldn't worry about who got vaxxed and who didn't because you got it. My big thing is you should be very leery about something when they're promoting other people that got something they believed in, that they believed in it and it should work for them. Then why do they give a shit about me? If you got it and it worked for you, then why do you care if I got it or not? If you believed it worked, it's working for you. Why are you worried about me?
So I agree with that sentiment, and I've said that exact thing in the past. Um, it, that is a that is kind of a different subject, right? Because now we're getting into the difference between scientific dishonesty and government overreach and attempts at government control. And they can be linked, but they are not the same thing.
Yeah, well, then you can research HIV and you can see that there were generations and generations of people in Africa that had HIV and never got AIDS. And then after the vaccines came out and the hepatitis shots came out and the HPV shots came out, it spun certain people with immune systems that carry that into AIDS. And so where did AIDS come from?
So I have
So,
not
so
done a lot of that specific research.
the
Um,
same people that did this, and this is an experimental drug, so we can't be careful about vaccines talking about this because this is not a vaccine. This is an experimental drug right now. That's the way it's labeled. It's labeled
Correct.
experimental.
This
yes,
doesn't
yes.
fall under the definition of a vax. That's correct.
Well, a traditional vaccine, no. You're simply telling the way
Vaccine
this works
period.
is you're simply telling your body to produce the antigen for so your body can recognize the antigen specifically without having a dead form of the virus uh, for antigen recognition for your immune system.
Well, there's
Uh,
preservatives and thermosol in this, and you know what thermosol is? It's mercury, and preservatives are in this. And what the preservatives are doing right now to the innate immune system is they're creating a way for your body not to respond normally to block trillions of bacteria and viruses normally that they block because you took this. So that guess what? You'll need a booster jab, and you'll need to get a jab a couple times a year down the road because they're going to scare you, and all it's going to do is continue to deteriorate your immune system. That's what this is about. That's why this is an experimental drug that's being forced on people that hasn't been approved. It's not a vaccine. And look at what's in it, and then go actually see if you can go to a vaccine site because I've done it, and ask them to pull out the slip that's supposed to tell you the contents, the ingredients of it, and it's a blank piece of paper. Why is that going on?
I
Why
don't have that
why
information.
are they
Um,
why do you have to dig and dig and dig to find out what's in it? And why are they not telling you what's in it? Because I
well,
make products that are all
I think
natural, and I have to give you every ingredient in there.
I have a guess. I'm not completely sure, but I think since this is technically an experimental trial, they probably don't have to provide the same information that they would with normal drugs that have been approved. That's a guess. I don't know.
So so then if you're taking an experimental drug, there should be a waiver that you sign and you approve that if anything happens to you, that you're agreeing to that. And in that waiver, legally, it needs to show you what you're putting in your body. And there's not even the waiver being signed.
That's true.
that's
They actually don't provide that information, so what they're doing would be against Nuremberg codes.
so
Yep.
that there is a pre-existing set of set of protections for that. That basically the companies that have developed these various treatments or preemptive treatments, if you will, are already legally protected. And I hope people understand that too, regardless of what you believe about any of this.
That's
Do
correct.
remember that you cannot sue
Yep.
Johnson and Johnson.
So
You
that's
cannot
under the
legally sue Regeneron.
yeah. I'll put it up on the screen. It's actually I think it's under the 1986 Act. The
You can't sue any
vaccination.
you can't sue any vaccine company. You can't sue over a vaccine.
Yeah, so whoever's listening to this, just remember, regardless of what you believe or what you think is right or
Oh yeah.
crazy or moral or not, um, you have no legal protections.
And you won't get an insurance payout because it's experimental and that's not covered.
Yep.
Uh, so it's on the screen. Of course, there's more information. Hopefully, they don't block a lot of the stuff. So I'll go to this and see what this says. Let's see.
Which is which
Now,
is which is a great point of conversation to have people, so they at least think through both sides and do research before they put anything in their body.
Okay, so here it has information about the. So they're covered, but it looks like it's they're covered under the I think they have to provide compensation for injuries that happen, but I think they get to decide who to pay it out to probably.
so I don't know really the
Yeah.
specifics of that. I will say it's ironic, and again, to whoever's listening to this, like, use a little bit of your own intuitive mind, right? At the same time that you are being told you can't go certain places and you can't do certain things unless you comply with this vaccination effort, uh, the entire corporate hierarchy, global corporate hierarchy, if you will, is currently talking about a steady state economy. The entire half of Washington is trying to currently push us into a steady state economy where the United States is no longer the leading world power, as well as very active efforts on population control. And all of this is happening at the same
Yep.
time, right? So whether or not you want to call it a conspiracy or whatever, what have you, use your own intuitive thinking, and remember, all these people with incredible amounts of power are actively talking about reducing the human population, uh, actively damaging the economy, putting everyone on a level playing field, if you will. Um, and you have to decide if that's the world you want to live in, and if if the literally giving away of American economic power is something you want to allow to happen, because this is the country that your children are going to grow up in, and uh,
Yep.
a day will come when your children will ask you, "Hey, you guys had so many rights. These, certain things weren't required of you. You got to own property. You got to own guns. You got to speak your
Well,
mind. You lived in an economic golden age. What happened?" And you will have to say, "Well, we simply gave it away." And now you have to explain to your children and the future generations uh, why all this was found meaningless by your generation. Why did your generation give
and why didn't
away
you
the
guys
hard
why
work
didn't
of
you
all the
guys do
previous
something about it?
generations? Yes.
Well, yeah,
Why
it's,
didn't you
it's the
do
same
anything?
question millennials are asking for
But but I but I
the
but
baby boomers.
but I mean the big thing goes back to 1871 though. In this country, we were spoiled to think that we actually owned our property, and we, yes, we could get a gun, and yes, we could do those things, but really, this is all ahead to the fact that economic system run by the central banksters is about population control and a complete redirective of a revaluation reset at the same time to give up all that. And we're hitting a point right now where even as good as we had it here in this country, that's what slowly cooked the frog to not stand up right now, like all the people protesting everywhere else in the globe. And they know if we fall, we're the last domino to fall. We can't fall. And this is more about of realizing that everybody's been a slave to a fake paper system of money, of where our money's going to the Vatican, it's going to the Bank of London, and all our trillions of dollars that should cover everything are being embezzled out of here so that the central banks can leverage more and we borrow to pay off the debt on the debt on the debt. And so that's coming to a head right now. And that's truly the big issue. So now if that's coming to a head and that control's taken out of 3% of the globe, what do we have to do? We have to create fear, control, pandemic. We have to get rid of people. We're outnumbered. That's the big play by these people,
Absolutely.
because
So,
they don't have an ounce of sincerity to humanity, because they've controlled us and treated us like deplorables and sheep for so long that I was walking around going, "Are you kidding me? We've all got punked that easy to put on a mask that doesn't work? That's scary." But we are in that state here. That's why we're the slowest one to wake up right now. And you
well,
think we'd be first because of those freedoms that you just talked about.
Yep.
uh, one of the issues we're dealing with is simply that the American people have lived through some of the absolute easiest times in human history. So the old saying that hard times create strong people and uh, good times create weak people. It only makes sense that we are dealing with the weakest generation in human history
Yeah,
because we've
that
had the easiest
definitely
lives
only
in all of human
pertains to
history.
men, in my opinion. Because in my opinion, it's the men. If
Yeah,
the men
yeah,
get
we do.
weak, then that's what sets it out like dominoes. It. I know. You can have women who are actually actively involved in doing things, but the elites were going after the strength of the men through various means.
We also have to be careful to
Well,
recognize
they broke it.
we also have to be careful to recognize that this
They have to
is
recognize
kind of
what.
that this is a natural progression of things, that this is what happens when people have easy lives and generational wealth for years and years and years. This very same issue is talked about in some of the waning days of Rome.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing
Yes,
unique about what's happening right now. This has happened before. There
but
are historical
Rome didn't really
examples.
fall.
Well, what do you mean by
Rome
that?
never
Yeah,
really
go on
fell,
with
though.
that.
I think the history of what we're reading about Rome is a setup for America to fall, because all roads lead back to Rome, from the Athenians and the Spartans, to the guys that were like a mixture of both, to the Hebrew banking system, to the central banks, to the division, to the cutout of we know of for a fact 14 books in the Bible, but really there were probably 777, a trilogy,
Yeah,
the
they
power of
cut out a
7 books in the Bible, and
whole
they
lot.
reduced it down to 66, and they divided religions, and they divided the people, and Rome has never gotten weak because the Vatican is Rome, a bank with no
I
rules, tied to everything right now.
I I would disagree. I think that historically speaking, when a foreign army burns your city down and enslaves your people, that's Rome falling.
Okay, well, let me ask
I,
Um,
you
I
this.
kind of see
Who?
what he's saying because
Let
like
me
when you
let me ask you this. So do you think uh, the Saudi Arabians that flew airplanes into the buildings at 9/11 were really tied to Afghanistan somehow and Iraq?
well, uh,
Let me just ask that question. Do you think that they're the ones responsible for that? Because I could fake a Roman Empire being burnt down just like I could fake January 6th insurrection bullshit.
okay, wait a sec. You're jumping around a lot, sir. We
No, I'm
gotta.
not. You could go back to Rome and you could stage those fires. You could stage all that crap, and you could still take over the
I
globe
don't
with a plan to
I
take
don't think
over
he can
everything.
say it on YouTube, but what he's saying is that, and I can kind of see where he's going with this. In the truther community, they talk about black flags. I'm not going to say it here because I don't want to get it taken. I don't know. Everything triggers YouTube nowadays, but
Uh,
basically, the British used to fly different. Like they actually had ships that went under the name of different nations, but then that ship was actually the British. So
yes, I understand.
so those
False
same
flag.
operations could be carried. Uh,
Uh, Okay, I understand what a false flag operation is, and I absolutely could have a long conversation about the ridiculous nature of the war in the Middle East. Um, but I think for the sake of our viewers, we kind of need to be a little more um, on on topic, if you will, uh, because now we're kind of jumping to saying that Rome, the Western Roman Empire, did not fall, and it absolutely did.
No, it fell. It fell. But that's kind of like saying after World War II that the Nazis were over forever. None of them actually ended up in our CIA over
Well, yeah,
here.
I
Well,
mean
no,
that's
no, no. I
actually a good
understand that they took us to the moon, even. Like I understand that,
that's actually a good example.
but now but the comparison is it's a very difficult comparison to make, right? Because the idea that the Third Reich absolutely fell. To say that
No, they did not.
I'm
No,
sorry.
they fell to Switzerland. They fell to Switzerland. They fell to Argentina, and they took over our CIA, and that's where we're at today.
They didn't fall because
Uh,
if you look at
No,
Operation Paperclip,
that's what I'm saying. That's what
no,
I'm
I
saying is
know that's what
they're
you're
a
saying, but
state.
like if you look at Operation Paperclip, United States actually helped them. Like they didn't fall. Like
Wait a sec.
they actually like I think there were actually deals probably being made, and yeah, they probably lost troops like actual like German soldiers like in wars, but
That's population control. That they wanted those people to die. That's population control. But
No, the
they
Wehrmacht
got away with everybody they needed.
the Wehrmacht was absolutely defeated. The German military was absolutely defeated. To say that the Third Reich did not fall because we were able to nab a bunch of their very, very desirable scientists is a
Okay, well
massive stretch.
let me ask you this. So George Herbert Bush didn't set up a Nazi bank in the United States after World War II?
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm just saying in my opinion from my research, I'm going to challenge the audience to go do research on that one.
But okay, well, instead of just throwing out that statement and leaving it there, um, I would ask to one, what makes it a Nazi bank? What is the name of this organization? Things like that.
Well, the best
Uh,
thing to do would be to throw that out there, and then people start going and researching that, and they'll find all the information about it, and they'll also find some connections to Soros in that time frame
well,
to those bank deals.
hey, so I just want to say, y'all, don't worry about organization. That's not my channel. I don't really care about organization. We're just getting our thoughts out and refreshing ideas. That's all.
I understand that, but I'm simply stating that, man, you're making some massive statements, and if we're going to do that, then we need to
It's,
provide some context.
yeah, it's fine. We could just do like anyone who's listening. Like, so when you're hearing these things, these ideas pop up, just do your own research. That's all it is.
So let's just
Yeah,
start out
that's
with
the
the
best thing
question
for
of
people.
what makes a bank a Nazi bank.
I've heard
Like that,
the same argument that he's making. I've actually heard similar things,
then make the
and
argument to me, please.
so my guess, and this you have to correct me if I'm
My,
wrong. So,
my
her, go ahead.
yeah, my deal is if it's the first time you heard it, go research it because you're not going to listen to me based on your tone. You're going to go research it, and you're more apt to go research it and it be retained through your research than it being hearsay from me. That's one thing I've learned about people is 90% of what I hear is rumor, hearsay, and opinion until I go research it. And you know what? I've researched that. So you go
It,
do some research on that.
okay,
I didn't
I
have to
can.
Plain
research that.
simple.
So I didn't
Wait
have
a
to
sec.
research that particular thing that Adam brought up because I heard it in a documentary. It was in a JFK documentary, and they brought up the fact that they brought up the idea that Herbert, I think he was saying Herbert Bush, so that means the Bush family was actually connected to the Nazi bank. Um,
The grandfather. Not
Okay,
George Bush Senior, not George Bush Junior,
Right.
the
Don't want to
grandfather.
barf.
okay, then throw me a bone here and tell me the name of the company or the name of the bank,
That's a
so I have
good
somewhere to
question.
start with.
Let me see if I can
Just
pull
something.
something up on this.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull something up on the
What?
screen while y'all are
Yeah,
chatting.
because I'm driving right now, so I don't have
Oh,
access
you're
to the
driving?
archive. But what I
I
can do,
mean,
yeah,
if
I'm
I,
driving. So
I
what I
Y'all go
can
ahead
do
and
is I
talk
can give
about it.
you the
I'll
name.
just try to pull.
I can I can give you the name of the bank if he doesn't find it, and I can email a bunch of information about it and some videos where you can watch it. I'd be happy to do that. But I'm not on the computer where I can type things in, put them in the description box, and put them on comments right now because I'm driving to a meeting that I'm supposed to be at in 4 minutes. But I'd be
huh.
happy to share that information and that research with you.
Yeah, I just
I would
realized
be
you were
happy to
on a
do that
little.
if,
You there?
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we're
here.
here.
Oh, I was just saying. I realized you were supposed to. We were supposed to go for an hour, but we're actually going a little longer. Did they delay the meeting or something?
That's No, it's at 6:15. I just wanted to have a little bit of time to grab all my stuff, but I already had it in the car. So I'm just
Okay.
driving. I'm just driving over here. I'm getting ready to walk in. So I'm gonna have to get off here in about 3 minutes and run
All
in
right.
there, and I got to do a
So
presentation.
since y'all are on, so while y'all are on, the last thing I'll do before he leaves, so there's a video. I'm still searching the bank in the background, but there's a video that I want to show just for anyone watching as well that kind of demonstrates what's going on around the world. So you got kind of like this. You have massive uprisings in cities across the world. And it's not just so this would be in France. You got some in UK. You have some starting in Ireland. I think the Ireland's marches have been rescheduled, but they're protesting the very things that we're
Wow,
speaking
major
against.
developments happening in France where it
And of
looks
course,
like
this guy is kind of talking about it. But here's some of the info on it.
marching with protesters that are predominantly angry at Emmanuel Macron, a former Rothschild banker, the current president of France,
Um,
according to many political analysts, has
What's up?
And they're all tied to
so
the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all of them.
Yeah, I just recently learned that they actually all of the world leaders are tied together by bloodline.
It's a bloodline. Yep.
so yeah, I'm not denying any of what we're talking about. I just think we need to be, again, careful to provide context to this, right? I don't think we're going to have anybody hop on our team simply by making massive statements without uh, supporting information. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah, we can provide that description boxes and all that stuff to you. We can provide all that.
okay, it's yeah.
Because I've been studying this stuff for almost 30 years. I've been aware of this stuff. So it's not
Uh,
like I just started a year ago because of COVID.
Oh,
So
oh no,
I'd
no,
be happy to
and
share
I've
any
been
and all information with you.
and I've been told that this was going to happen my entire life. Like I understand what you're saying, and I agree for the you know the vast majority of what you're saying, and I understand it. It's just that, again, to throw out these statements, no context, and then to
Relax.
it just yeah. Sorry,
Here's here. I just had a thought, Eric.
what's up?
So a lot of this information is going to be full blasted in people's faces on their computer screens and on their phones, like any day. So when it comes to us getting the information out, like normally I would agree under less serious circumstances. I mean, you have 45,000 people dead under the VAERS, like in terms of the VAERS database, which I could go into the VAERS database right now and parse out information uh, based off of state. Like this kind of information, it's at the point where you can't really dry feed it anymore. It kind of has to be uh, brought out cold. The reason why I
It's
say
got to
that
be
is
fed.
it's
People got to be fed with a fire hose.
They're gonna get it. They're gonna get it hard, literally from the U.S. military anyway. At any moment,
What do you mean get it hard from the U.S. military?
meaning the information is going to be broadcast for most American, most if not all Americans to see. Basically, what we're doing, we're showing them what's going to happen, but
Uh,
they're going to get it pretty hard regardless.
I have
Um,
been hearing that since all of this began.
Yeah, and everyone
You
has,
know,
and of course, a lot of people are anxious. Now, what I've heard about is that they're kind of trying to gauge when to do it. Now, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure of all the details because I'm not getting inside information. I'm just a guy on the other side of the computer, just like all of y'all, I'd imagine.
I mean, no doubt. But again, as far as man, we have to be really careful, dude. I've been hearing about everything from rumors about military coups, uh,
Yeah.
about
Hey guys,
the election.
Eric, I want to tell you it was nice meeting you. I'm gonna have to step in, guys, and I apologize, but I got to step into this meeting. But I want to do this again with you guys because I enjoyed it. I
Yeah, no
really did.
problem, sir.
Yeah, sounds
It's a good
good.
time.
We'll probably set up sometime next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, see
Thank
you.
you. All right, you there, bud?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
So I want to finish what I was saying. So uh, I kind of get where you're coming from. Just want to give people, because a lot of people, if they're given information too quickly, they don't know how to respond. Especially if you throw out a bunch of buzzwords and they feel like they can't really relate to what's being said. I think the best way to handle that, in my opinion, is, you could use humor. Humor tends to be very good, which there hasn't been a super whole lot of on this particular podcast. But some of the nature of the stuff we're talking about is extremely serious. But how do you sell people like Mark Ultra, for example, like MK Ultra? How do you sell that to them in a humorous way? Well, I'm sure you can, but some of this stuff we're going to need comedians to introduce to people because. They tend to be the best. I think the best way to introduce truth to people
So
in a
MK
disarming way.
Ultra, MK Ultra is beyond questioning at this point. MK Ultra absolutely happened. I don't know if people who are still claiming that MK Ultra didn't happen.
Most of the American population would still say they would still believe that's a conspiracy theory, especially voice to skull technology, which is well documented. You can literally look up the schematics for how it's done, and it'll actually give you the information. But regardless,
Voice to skull technology? What do you mean?
I think that's a precursor for MK Ultra, but I'm not sure.
Well, okay. Well, tell me then what. Let's just start out. Let's slow down and say first off, what is voice to skull technology and why is it connected?
So I'm not as well researched. I'm not as well researched as the last guy that was on, but I have a hunch, and this is just my guess, and I'll say this while I'm popping it up on the screen. So, voice to skull technology, and I think it's a lot easier to understand just by looking at the images on this. So, like I was saying, I think that this would be the best precursor to. This would be probably a good precursor to understanding what MK Ultra is. Um, so here's a diagram. I'll pull it up. Um, so this.
So let's
So
uh,
I'm not going to explain what's going on here, but basically, with your television, with the radio, with any type of broadcasting technology, this technology could be embedded in the population.
but you're still not telling me what it actually physically is.
Voice to skull.
Yes.
I can try to pull up a definition of it real quick.
Oh well.
I
I
think I
mean, wait.
saw.
Oh, okay. Now I got to argue the principle of the thing with you, man.
You don't have
because
to do that.
no,
Look,
like the
we were
U.S.
talking
government
about
has
MK Ultra, man.
the
Like I was
U.S.
just
government has come out and the U.S. government has come out and openly said that MK Ultra was a real thing, and they've like openly apologized for it. You know,
yeah, but
um,
I bet it was under the guise that they're actually stopping it, right? They haven't stopped anything.
yeah, no, I'm not making a statement about that. I'm just simply saying, like, the United States government has openly admitted that MK Ultra is a real thing,
Yeah,
and
but here
so
I'm not disagreeing with you there, and I'd
like,
imagine. I mean, most of the stuff that the United States does, they will come out right and say it, but a lot of the citizens still are not privy to this information, and
oh no,
they still don't even understand what MK Ultra means. They don't even know the origins of it as well.
yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know what MK Ultra is, it was, I believe, in the 70s. The U.S. government was experimenting with LSD, and wasn't this how LSD actually got invented? Was
Mm,
the
I
MK
actually,
Ultra
I
program?
don't know if that's how it got invented. I'm not sure about that.
I believe so. And so it was government attempts at mind control.
I know to a certain. I have a hunch that MK Ultra technology was actually probably Nazi tech, though. They were probably the first to experiment with it.
Um, I don't know exact for sure about that.
So I'll
But
provide I'll try to provide a link or connection when I'm saying that. So you had with Operation Paperclip, and I'll
yeah.
try to
Okay,
bring it up.
okay. Now remind everybody what Operation Paperclip is, because Operation Paperclip was when we basically um, told a huge number of Nazi scientists after World War II, by the way, you work for NASA now.
Yeah. So we gave them
Okay.
their own spot and told them to get to work, which they were basically doing whatever they wanted. There was no real restriction. Hold on, trying to pull it up on the screen real quick. So this is Operation Paperclip. And I'm just using the site of Google real quick, and just something super quick. So it started in 1945, and then that happens to be what right after World War II. The end
Yes.
date was 1959. No, it wasn't. Operation Paperclip was a secret United States intelligence program in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were taken from former Nazi Germany to the United States government employment. They were employed under the United States, and you have several different Stargate project. I might look that up later. That's even more crazy. That's going to be even more harder to believe for a lot of people. The Stargate SG-1 videos or movies, those are actually real, and they had Stargate projects as well in the United States. I'm not going to get into that though. I
Let's
jumped
slow
too
down,
hard.
man. Let's
So
slow way down,
yeah,
okay?
you're right. So you are right. So with Operation Paperclip, essentially, I guess the way you can think about it is, you know, okay, now you work for us, kind of deal. Perhaps,
Yes,
maybe not.
it was really actually that simple. It was basically like, hey, we can hang you, we can put you in the Nuremberg trials and hang your ass, or we can give you a job. What would you like? And that's a very fast conversation.
I don't think it's that quick. I think it would be nice if it was that quick, but I think a lot of the Nazis, like there's uh, a lot of the like when you look at Hitler, for example, he didn't actually kill himself with I forgot her name. Was her name like Ava?
Ava Braun.
Yeah, he didn't actually kill himself under a bunker while the city was being overtaken. He was brought out along with the 1,600 other German scientists. He was relocated to Brazil, to South America.
So, again, people have been talking about that for quite a while. We're now getting into some dangerous territory where um, literally So in order for that to be the case, for the actual Fuhrer of Germany to have made it out, um, you're saying that not only did we lie, but the Russian government kept the lie up with us, because there's reports wherein the Russian government had done, I believe, dental records
Mm-hmm.
on the corpses and whatnot. But it's
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not really something I know for a fact. I'm just I'm just saying what I've heard, what I've researched.
I get
Um,
that, but we have to be careful as stating things as fact that are.
well, let's just say it this way.
I mean,
So
they're
we don't.
massive lies. Don't get me wrong.
Right, I got you,
Like,
but like, so we don't have to keep coming back to this point. Like, let's just say, this is just what I think. Y'all do your research and tell me what you find. Maybe we'll figure something else out about that. One can say World War I. At least we can all agree that the world wars, a lot of those wars, were when you had the elites basically playing both sides and selling armaments to both sides, and they were cashing in on all of those wars.
well, no doubt.
That's
No
a. I mean, it's
doubt,
a
people with
very,
money. I mean,
very
there's no
vague
doubt that
statement.
people with money and power have been playing both sides for a long time. Um,
I think that's kind of what we're getting at with the Operation Paperclip, though. 'Cause
yeah.
I don't
Now,
think it was like oh, Nazis just no. They were the United States government was working with them to allow them to do that. So that, I mean, there was obviously that kind of probably that same kind of dichotomy going on where you had like something other than just war between two people or between two multiple nations going on, like something more intricate.
so historically speaking, you can see the link between the two world wars as I would practically say the same war with uh, perhaps a 20-year hiatus in the middle of them, in the middle of the fighting. That would be a really, I believe, an accurate way to look at World War One and Two as simply the same fight with a 20-year ceasefire. Um, but World War One, if you don't know a lot about World War One and how it began and the way it was fought, it was some shady stuff. It really does not make a lot. If you take it at if you take it at face value, the way that the war began really makes there's no logic to it, you know.
Can you go further with that? What do you mean by that?
Because it was a massive, destructive, huge conflict that, if taken at face value, you would say that it was simply a problem caused by a multitude of countries having very bad foreign policy and a weird treaty system wherein um, basically because of bad communication between nations, uh, one nation got aggressed against, I believe, Belgium, and that was enough excuse for England to enter. And the way again, the way the ally system worked at the time, uh, one thing happened, and there was literally just a cascade effect, if you will, from there, and it was not very logical. And the only way to really take it at face value and um, explain it is that the whole planet was just covered in people who were willing to warmonger mindlessly, even.
If they were propagandized enough.
Well,
because you had I don't know if this I don't know what happened with World War I, but with World War II you had I know in the United States you had theaters and they would have showings of war scenes and you'd have people watching it and there'd be a whole lot of propaganda, kind of like what's going on now with a lot of the movies you see, and you'll see like the pre-screen when you come in before the lights are dimmed. um, I think with the cinema in the early 20th century, you had that kind of situation going on where with the little films they would watch, the films would be a secondary. Um, it would be of secondary importance, and the primary reason for it was to solidify the need to fight for the young boys in particular, but even for the nation, just galvanizing that interest to go to war, and that was probably in other countries as well. But propaganda was it was definitely a really important psyop for those times,
no doubt.
and we see that transforming itself now. Even in current times, they still have methods of propaganda that are
Well, I
even
mean,
more effective now.
everything we're dealing with right now is a giant damn psyop getting us ready for what's coming next.
Well, it's really well greased.
Um, yeah, it's a dangerous and multifaceted and complex thing, no doubt.
So, anyone listening, there's some terms I think we threw out a lot that could be researched. So, I threw out Operation. Um, what did I throw out before? I threw out Operation Paperclip, but there's a whole lot of operations that people don't really know about. But for the sake of this conversation, I think just the small little tidbits would be useful. So Operation Paperclip, just study like that particular information. There's a lot of documents on it and information on YouTube. You can use DuckDuckGo or Google. I don't really know which one you prefer, but also another thing we were talking about was propaganda. So that would be wartime propaganda for either World War One and World War II, and that would be with any given nation. Since I'm in the United States, I think I don't know. I would look up, propaganda during World War II or World War I or something like that, just as an idea of like how to research or what to look up.
So now we also have to remember that at the time, let's say before December 7th, 1942, before the Japanese hit Pearl Harbor, the people of the United States were really not okay with us entering another European war. And data about that can be found all over the place. And understandably so. We had just finished out World War I, dealing with European problems, sacrificing our young men for European sovereignty and whatnot. So, just to put it simply, like the reality is that the majority, I think, of Americans were not really willing to go into another European war. This, of course, changed when we got hit by Japan. If anything, maybe I still remember going to having to take classes on history, and in my history book there was an entire page, an entire article there for to do nothing but like absolutely nothing but mention that what was it, 7 minutes, the 7-minute delay between the warning about the Pearl Harbor attack and the actual attack happening was actually on the level, and there's, it's a conspiracy theory to believe otherwise. And I thought that was really, the fact that they had to throw in an entire one-page summary about that specific incident was,
Can you say that again?
shady at best. Okay, so
I don't think I've heard that.
So basically, and people blame military inadequacies and inefficiencies and problems in the intelligence agencies for this. So basically, we had information about the Japanese attack, and a warning went out to Pearl Harbor that the Japanese were going to hit the base with a surprise attack. This warning came in. I can't remember. It was like either 7 minutes or something like that. Some very tiny amount of time that the warning came in after the attack had already started. What you should find shady about this is that, again, many Americans did not want to have anything to do with another European conflict. This massive surprise attack against us by what was, supposedly a third, not an ally, but a third party, somebody we were kind of neutral with, was the perfect justification to enter World War II.
So the elites were basically trying to figure out how to start the Second World War.
Well, no.
No, you said that Americans didn't want to go on, they didn't have any inclinations towards a Second World War. So, it seems like that situation would have been a very good excuse to start a world war.
Well, it wasn't necessarily had blown up into a world war yet. I truly believe that without American economic and industrial might, the Axis powers would have absolutely won the Second World War. The Japanese Imperial Army was incredibly well disciplined, and the entire early portions of the Japanese expansionist attacks, they had a lot of success. Nobody was really ready for their attacks. China had gotten really torn up by the Imperial Army without much any hope. And so you also look at Russia, right? So without the United States
now
pushing,
China's trying to go to war with Japan.
Well, the Japanese did some awful shit. Like, I'll just put that out there right now. The Japanese did some really awful shit in China. Now, I'm not going to say that's a justification for anything. Yes or no. I'm not making a value judgment about now. I'm simply saying, like, for instance, when they, one famous example is like, they call it literally the rape of Nanking. There was over 100,000 unplanned pregnancies. There were Japanese officers who were having contests about how many POWs they could behead and how good their swords were. Shit like that. It was really awful. There's even pictures of Japanese soldiers with Chinese babies hanging off the end of their rifles, stuck with bayonets. It was really horrible what they did, right? Without a doubt. That said, if the United States had not pushed through with the island hopping campaign in the Pacific, there would have been an enormous number of more Japanese troops to then push through China and help the Third Reich deal with Russia. Because they didn't have that, the Russians were able to pull back from the West, and Joseph Stalin oversaw probably one of the biggest forced migrations in all of human history. He took the Russian people, took them out of their homes and pushed them east, and then burned down everything. And so when the Third Reich was pushing through the area, there was no supplies, nothing for them. But the Third Reich had also had a bunch of successes early on when fighting Russia. The entire here's a for instance, okay, a weapon. The damn, now I can't. Okay, yeah, the SVT 38s or 39s and 40s, right? That is a semi-automatic rifle that was issued to Russian troops, right? So, SVT, Sierra Victor Tango. Go to images. So that's one example. Now change that 38 to 40. Okay, so basically what we're seeing here is that, people think that only the United States entered World War II with a semi-automatic rifle. That's not true. The Russians had the SVT 38s and 40s as well. The problem is when you look at the SVT 40, it has reputation. Soldiers liked it. Now the question is, what soldiers liked it? And this is where it gets kind of ironic, because the majority of reports and opinions about it were created by German soldiers, not Russian soldiers. Because in the early days of the war, when I think it's Operation Barbarossa, when the German military pushed into Russia, they were met with so many successes that they literally wiped out the frontline Russian military altogether. So all of their best troops that they had stationed to protect their country, that were issued these very, very modern, high quality weapons, and had good training, all that. They're basically their pre-existing professional military force was wiped out completely. And most of the reports you see and most of the opinions held about this particular weapon is from the German soldiers using captured rifles, right? So Russia really was put on the ropes really, really quickly. And the only way they were able to maintain any sort of a fight was the fact that they were fighting a war on a single front. They had the Third Reich to deal about, and that was it until the very, very end of the war. At the very, very waning days of the war itself, you see the Russian military turned east and had a couple of very hard battles against the Japanese. But prior to that, and all of that happened like quite late in 1945, if I remember correctly. But there is no possible way that Russia could have continued fighting, could have done anything basically without the United States keeping the Japanese imperial forces busy in the Pacific. If the Japanese were allowed to concentrate all their efforts and put Russia into a two-front war, the Russians would have fallen, without a doubt. Absolutely. So when people talk about, the late Pearl Harbor message is a conspiracy theory, or they don't call it a conspiracy theory. They say that the idea that it was purposely withheld so that we could get attacked, so that we would have a justification to rile people up and get people, on board for the war.
It's possible.
Yeah, it makes so much sense because
Eisenhower.
there's no way that Russia could have continued fighting the Third Reich. There's no way. If they had been fighting a two-front war, they would not have been. First off, they captured the oil fields pretty damn quickly.
Like that could have been like. Well, I was gonna say it could have been the first 911, but no, probably not.
Man, what's awful is, like, you talk to young people about that attack, you talk to young people about 9/11, and they don't even they don't even remember, they don't even know what year it actually was, and they don't have the details on it. They just don't know. I believe it was Adolf Hitler. I believe this quote is from Adolf Hitler. He said, "What luck it is for leaders that the people don't think." I believe is what it was. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I'm doing my best to keep it correctly. He said, "What luck it is for us that the people don't actually think." And when
I've heard that quote before.
Yeah, so when I talk to, when I meet young people and try and talk to them about things like this, and they have no idea what I'm talking about, or they, all they know is that we were attacked and that was used as justification for a 20-year war. Like that's basically where the information stops, But and I understand also that things like intuitive thinking are being like demonized, right? Like, I'm a scientist myself, but the scientific community is full of people who really believe that if it doesn't come in a peer-reviewed article, it doesn't really exist.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's what's wrong with. There is a professor. I don't know where he came out of, but he argues that a lot of his newer students they're unteachable because they don't believe anything unless it comes through a peer reviewed study.
Yeah, exactly. And so things like intuitive thought, which
Well, you can't control intuitive thought.
well,
Well, that's probably
so
why it's demonized.
well, intuitive thought can be wrong, right? Because when you're talking about intuition, you're literally talking about trusting in raw IQ. You're talking about pattern recognition and trusting in the same force that has kept us alive for millions and millions of years. This can be wrong because, like, no doubt there are plenty of subjects and things that are very complex, and the first your first thought when you look at these situations may be completely incorrect, and that does happen, right? And so you would say, oh, well, this needs further study and we have to look at statistics and find more information. Okay, I'm all about it. I'm down with that. I absolutely agree. But people also need to remember that the only reason you exist is because your your ancestors had the IQ and the intuition to keep themselves alive. By us demonizing this, you're literally saying, don't think for yourself, don't act in basically don't act in self-preservation, and just listen to what we have to say. And that's it. It's really, it's an awful thing to push, you know, because because then you end up with a bunch of people who you can literally say, like, okay, your textbook might say one thing, but when you look back at history, there's a lot of stuff that's like obscenely you say, oh, well, this is on the level. Yeah, man, but it is just obscenely convenient. You know what I mean? When you can look at any situation and find that, like, uh, whether it's an attack or a message, or you pick up an email or some piece of information, and it seems to be, let's say, the exact thing that whatever certain group needed at the exact time, and it's the most convenient thing possible, and like, you should you should view that with some concern, right? Because things that convenient, and Pearl Harbor, for instance, and the, you know, and what that implied and how that attack changed the course of history, like we were just talking about. um, it's so damn convenient that you should look at it with a huge amount of suspicion, just like 9/11, right? um, you look at someone like W, George W. Bush, right? It's pretty obvious, like, the guy wanted to go in and mess with Saddam Hussein. The guy was pissed off about the whole thing with his dad. That's on the surface. I, to be completely honest, it's hard to talk about things like this when, with W specifically, because W isn't really the smartest guy, I don't think, to put it nicely. Like, I don't want to talk too much shit about the guy, but um I remember seeing an interview where he specifically mentioned that he's the president, he's the most powerful person on the planet, supposedly, and he doesn't read books. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was he's not. It's hard for me to believe that someone like W is some globalist mastermind, because
No, he's more of a puppet.
yeah, he's a
I'm
good
guessing
old
that you're
boy.
talking about
Yeah, he's a good old boy at
the
best.
regular
I
W,
hate to
not
say it,
senior.
but yeah, I hate to say it, but he's kind of a good old boy at best, right? So, you can. It's just like, you look at these attacks. 9/11 gave us the justification to go do something that we wanted to do anyway. That when you look at it from a historical and from a economic and from a strategic perspective, makes no sense, right? But like, we got hit, and that's the first thing we did, was push in and go to war with these countries that literally had nothing to do with it. You know, um, it, think about this, right? We got hit by Al Qaeda, a group that had set up shop in Afghanistan. Um, we did not get attacked by the Afghan government, of which they're really this like, Afghanistan doesn't. Afghanistan even now does not really have a quote unquote. You can't see me do it, but I'm doing air quotes. You can't, like, a government. They don't really have a government the way we think about what it means to have a government. You know what I'm saying? Um, they're a theocracy. They're a religious-based government, and uh, they don't have any control of their own country. What you would call the federal government in Afghanistan, since the Russians had pushed into Afghanistan, there really was no federal authority there at all, to be completely honest with you. Um, so the fact that we go over there, and not only that, let's think about this too. In the early days of the Afghan war, the United States has sent in the Special Operations Group, namely the Green Berets. And the Green Berets had been dealing with the conflict in an incredibly professional manner that was actually uh, relevant to that conflict, right? Um, they didn't have tanks or nothing like that. They weren't using conventional tactics for a conventional war. They were um, engaging in something that the military calls UW, or unconventional warfare, wherein you're not fighting to take control of a hill or a piece of land. You're fighting to take control of people and people's opinions, right? Because as Mao said, the insurgent makes his way through the populace as the shark moves through water, right? And so the strategy is, if you can suck up all of the public support, in which case you're basically draining the water, the shark dies. The shark can't, exist in that. And so that's what they were doing. And they were going around and hitting very key locations, and they were getting a big job done for cheap with very, very little collateral damage. Very, very few innocent people getting hurt. And they actually had Osama bin Laden trapped in a series of caves. And now at the time, the justification was, oh, for us to get him out of there would take 10,000 men, and it'd be this huge battle, and the military wasn't willing to do it, right? Well, that's horseshit. They were willing to go into a fucking 20-year war. This could have been done in like 2002, but Donald Rumsfeld said, no, I don't want that. I want, what did he say exactly? He said, I want heads on pikes warfare. And it was completely unnecessary. It was absolutely unnecessary. But he got what he wanted. You know what I mean? And we ended up spending enormous amounts of money, and American corporate interests pushed into the area. Halliburton. I could go deep into this, but basically, suffice it to say that we conducted this war. Not only was the war itself rather unnecessary when viewed in a historical context, but the manner in which we fought the war was absolutely ridiculous and entirely unnecessary, without logic. And we then push, I think, a year into the future. I believe we went into Iraq in 2002 or 3. I can't remember. But anyway, there's literally zero justification for that. And I remember at the time, everybody was so pissed off. A lot of people were, and they said, oh, George W. Bush is a war criminal, and he should be tried for all the people who were hurt and that. And it's like,
he was just a front man.
He's just
man.
he's just a
he was the
George W. has
elite.
George W. Bush had just as much power against the global elite as you do, as you and I do. You know what I mean? And he wasn't some brilliant dude who was leading this charge. He was just taking orders himself.
You know who Klaus Schwab is?
I've heard the name a couple of times, but I don't remember exactly.
There's your Rothschild right there.
Yeah, well, I think he's a leader, picture, if you will.
Yeah, I think he's the leader of the World Economic Forum. I'm gonna pull him up.
Oh, the same guy who's saying you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
I think his mother was Rothschild. So he has a different last name, but.
So to anybody who's wondering what I mean by a steady state economy, it's it means we're moving away from a growth economy and into one with very, very little economic surplus, right? What does that mean for you as an individual? It means that basically to make a long story short, it means that if you thought that your kids were going to have the same possibility for vertical mobility and to move that's a funny one. basically your children are not going to have the same opportunities for vertical mobility that you do. There just simply will not be the money to, say, make a new product and have a huge consumer base to buy your product simply will not exist. Very simply, it will not exist. And you're not, if we allow them to push us into a steady state economy, which is basically what do you think these riots are? What do you think the absolute destruction of our economy is, and the destruction of our businesses, and punishing small businesses while multinational corporations get to continue operating with
Hold on,
impunity?
Eric.
What's up?
I'm sorry. Hold on. Dogs are barking. I gotta stop.
Oh, you're fine.
All right, I'm back. The dogs were barking at someone. I had to make sure they weren't doing that.
Yeah, no problem. But anyhow, sorry I've been talking for so long.
I mean, yeah, it's
but
a
if
long,
there's
it's a long subject.
It is, but like if there's young people wondering like why the country is in the states it's in, or like why we still have troops out there, why any of this is going on, it's just a little background for the reality of the current status of our nation and our peoples and our military, everything, if you will.
Yeah. So, with anyone listening, this is kind of. I actually kind of like the idea of going through the historical elements of things. It takes a while, but at the very least, this. Oh, yeah, I saw about the thing you said. The message you sent at 6:58.
Okay, cool.
I just saw that.
Okay.
I'm assuming you said that because I let my dogs in.
Yeah. Just a reminder is all. That's all.
I
Nothing
got
more.
you. I'm surprised you let me say your name.
No, it's okay. I am definitely already on a list somewhere because of my purchase history, if nothing else.
Because you're buying Gulag Archipelago?
Well, I mean, I've spent a little bit of money on
I got a
weapons
super
and ammo and all
Oh,
sorts of
okay.
stuff over the
Well, who
years.
hasn't done that? I mean, I got a book called "Privilege: The Privileged Sex." That's definitely not. That's a super controversial book.
But I mean, just there's definitely some stuff that
The
is
Privileged
more
Sex is a really
carefully.
good book.
I got you. There's just some stuff that's more definitely more carefully paid attention to, Um,
Yeah. So for anyone looking on the screen, so that guy. Uh, so just kind of
probably,
type in World Economic Forum and just listen to him and see what you think. Or
yeah.
if you want, look up his quotes.
I thought it was so funny. Like they were talking about that video came up from the World Economic Forum last year. Uh, in 10 years, you will own nothing. You'll be they're effectively saying you're going to be a peasant, but don't worry. We'll take care of you and you'll be happy. And they took it down pretty quickly. But it should be obvious at this point that, these people aren't stupid. They're not stupid at all. right? And they definitely control an enormous amount of power. So they're not. Whenever this shady ass stuff is going on, they don't. They're never ever going to come out and say, "Oh, you got me. No, this is what's really happening. Sorry, I am guilty. This is actually um, this is actually our fault, and no, we were doing this and we shouldn't have. We're sorry. We're bad. Whatever." Um, they don't do that. No, they package it in this feel good nonsense, and they say, "Oh no, you'll be a peasant. You won't own anything. There's no way you'll be able to build economic wealth. Uh, there's no way you'll be able to build a list of assets. You probably won't even be able to own property, or you won't be able to own land. But don't worry, it'll be okay. We'll take care of you, and it's all for the good of the planet anyway." And don't get me wrong, I myself am a conservationist, and I can see what's happening to our planet. Um, but regardless of how they package it to you, like, understand the end goal is as far as we in America are concerned, right? Because let's say you don't even care to look at the entire worldwide reality of what's happening. Just as an American citizen, they're going to they're going to destroy the American economy, and they're going to take your rights away, and they're going to do it under the guise of this is for the good of the planet.
They're gonna try to do that.
Well, they're doing a pretty damn good job so far, anyway.
I mean, they definitely did a good job at fooling the people who would be willing to go along with it. Yeah, but it seems like they're on their last. Seems like they're on their last leg attempt, because if they get this wrong, if this goes bad, they're kind of. It's kind of.
So I'll tell you the same thing I said before, man.
Don't underestimate them.
Don't never underestimate your foe. To do so is just begging for. You're just begging to lose. If
I'm
you
not
do.
underestimating these people. I know exactly. I know. At least I know a little bit of how powerful they are, and that's enough to scare the average person. If they knew that they had underground bases, where, like, basically even like a tenth. You only need to know a tenth, and then you go, okay, they have a lot of power. But the fact that they have a lot of power, I think it a lot of times when people are at a severe advantage, it goes to their head, and it gives the other guy the advantage. I think that's kind of where we're at.
What advantage is that exactly? Because the reality we're dealing with right now is that,
well, I'll tell
the
you,
people that allow you to do banking, the people that allow you to get a loan to buy a car, to buy a house, to like,
people
you're
who,
saying that the people who control what you see on the television and how
yeah,
you
through,
do
through the through
your
the
economic
the
things,
little
like,
mockingbird media via CIA, but most people, but the right people who need to know that that's all that stuff, especially the Netflix with the stuff that they push, like the right people who need to know that is, it's just prepackaged bullshit. They know that, but I mean, I'll tell you exactly why there's a good chance they're going to lose is because they're overconfident, they're arrogant, they have so much power. They've had so much control for such a long time that, I mean, that arrogance. You get to the point where you're not even fighting hard. You're just kind of like, "Well, this is so easy." That's prime time for takeout right there. You can
uh,
get the largest army you want. If they're overconfident and arrogant, they can be taken out by a small army.
so I understand what you're saying, but we have to, bro. Like,
I'm all about keeping that
the people we're
positivity,
talking
man.
about are literally united across the board, and, like, even worse than that, man. Um, when was the last time you talked to somebody and got their opinion about, like, when big tech silenced the fucking president of the United States, when corporate America flexed and showed that they had more power than our elected officials. It's terrifying to me because a lot of people who I've spoken to, and they're generally always on the opposing political side, they're like, "Oh no, I'm glad they silenced him because he was
What
such
the
a
fuck? They're
dude." I
fucking
hear,
retarded.
yeah, but like, dude, I've heard this over and over again. Oh, he was so full of lies. It was a good thing.
That's that. It'll never be
And
me syndrome shit.
yeah, I mean, well, that's a massive part of it.
It'll never be me. It's someone else. It's not me. And they
Yeah,
hitting people in
exactly,
other
exactly.
countries with batons because they won't wear a mask. It's only them. It's only in a third world country, right?
Yeah, no. Like I'm a good boy. Nothing bad will happen to me. But that's the end result, right? Is you ask them, well, like for instance, like okay, in this one specific instance, maybe you think you've won the fight here, right? The big bad orange man was told to hush up, and so as far as you're concerned, oh, this is a good thing, right? But imagine what happens when the pendulum swings, or eventually when you're not nearly as useful as you used to be, you know, when it's your rights being taken, when you're the one they're silencing. Um, you've basically empowered them to do so. You have set a they have set a new precedent for corporate power, for corporate overreach, for government power and overreach. Um, you look at something like simply okay, something as simple as the position of president. Um, the last 20 years have seen an incredibly just awful offensive boost in the raw power of that position, and this kind of thing is very reminiscent of how Rome became a dictatorship and lost its status as a republic, right? Because when the Senate becomes meaningless, when the Senate becomes useless, when the legislative branches and when the legislative branch has their fingers up their ass, they're stupid as hell and they're not doing anything of use, and
Yeah, but you got
they're
to remember, based off of what you said, like the United States hasn't been a republic since 1871. That's when the Rothschilds. That's when Great Britain. That's when the United States, like at that particular period in time, the United States
yeah,
went American
centralized
citizens.
banking,
Yeah, that's when Americans went
the Federal
from
Reserve.
yeah, especially through birth certificates. That's where we went from actual free citizens under the United States Republic back to slavery in a very
Well,
slow, weird way.
what's your problem with birth certificates?
Um, Birth certificates?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What's my problem with it?
Well, you just mentioned that as a point of contention.
Well, birth certificates are a part of, especially Social Security identification as well. That's a part of that system. That's a part of the Vatican system that the guy Adam who came on here.
Yeah, but dude,
So
he
they
was
actually
throwing out some.
he was throwing out facts. A lot of the information he was throwing out, I've heard before, and I mean,
I have
at the
too, but
very least, it's something you can verify through the research.
at very least, it is incredibly opinionated.
Well, yeah,
Like we
It-
can't like oh puppies.
but
Um,
this in terms of like the birth certificate, and you asked what my problem with it is. Like my problem is that it's linked to a system of power and control. Um,
I,
the
there have
Social Security ID, the card, it was never actually supposed to be a form of identification.
so I understand that, um, but we have to also remember like that's kind of the whole point of having an actual government, right? Like the government, that's what a government is. A government does have to have some control. A government has to be able to impart its will. That's what a government does and what it is.
Government's supposed to have a certain degree of control, but they're also supposed to fear their citizens because in order to
How
have
do you know that a person is actually one of your citizens?
are you trying to say that the Social Security uh, Act or the Social Security card and the birth certificate that was to help the government identify people? Perhaps.
I
Look,
mean, I mean, I mean,
I'll go with you on that. Just to go to its most extreme end, let's say they're using it to identify people, and that's the only reason why they use your social security identity. It's not in a birth certificate. Um, if that's the case, um, there were plenty of various different ways that we did that before we used those forms of identification. But you also have to factor in as well. Historically, the Social Security Act itself was enacted after the stock market crash, or at least it was either right before or right after the stock market crash of 1929, which was planned by the elite.
well,
But that number,
when you,
like people are actually sold, like they're like people, actual people are sold via their social security numbers across the world.
what do you mean sold?
Meaning your identification, your information, it's bartered. Your information is um,
Like,
basically your commodity.
well, yes, your data has been commodified in large part today, but so we have to be really careful about what we're saying here, man, because the Great Depression was caused by really, really bad policy.
It was engineered. And I have a little bit of information on the president. I think there's a document I could send to you after this via email, and there's a guy who goes into the president who I don't remember his name. I think it Coolidge. No, I don't. No, that's a little way. That's way too early. I'm sorry.
Hoover,
I'm
Hoover,
sorry.
maybe
That's way too early.
yeah,
So
Hoover, maybe I don't remember. My
that
point is
particular
though that
guy, he was working for the elite, so
yeah,
and he was actually informed. He was basically supposed to be a part of that crash, and that history and that information has been lost for
but
quite a while.
but that crash was caused by people engaging in economic practices that were just ridiculously bad. Um, like the very it wasn't just that. It was the Federal Reserve failed. Like everything failed all at the same time. People whose responsibility it was to maintain this system
Yeah, but who runs the Federal
failed.
Reserve? Who ran the Federal Reserve in 1920s?
Yeah, no, and don't get me wrong. It's some shady shit. The very nature of it is incredibly shady.
The elites were the
Um,
ones who ran the Federal Reserve. The Rothschilds were actually had 80% of the wealth of the entire world, and they were actually by that time period they actually were. I mean, basically, the United States owed them hush money. That well, not hush money, but they basically owed them. They were in debt to them because of obviously the mistakes of the earlier years and the earlier legislation by former presidents.
um,
I'm just arguing that it's engineered. I'm not arguing against the bad economic practices from the citizens and the bankers.
yeah,
But
I mean, there's a lot of data around this exact subject, man.
but but
Um,
but more importantly, I think uh, the birth certificate, it actually ties you into that system and makes you an asset under the crown corporation, not under like basically you're like if you give your kid a birth certificate, or if you've given your kid a birth certificate, up until now, you basically signed them to a third party nation within your own nation. Like
You have.
you've
Well,
basically
wait a
signed their
sec.
rights away.
That's you're saying some wild shit, man.
I know.
Like,
I know, man.
because how is a nation supposed to like actually keep track of its citizens? How if you don't have a
I mean, we
if
did
you
a
don't have a
census,
unique
right?
moniker for an individual, then what's stopping me from getting a loan in your name?
We did censuses before that. Also, children had their names in Bibles, and Bibles were recognized documents for citizens as well. I mean,
Bro, are you like serious right now?
before we had birth, also like
You want to use
we
are
didn't
you you
Social
want to use
Security, like it wasn't even the first. Like there were other forms of identification other than that. Like even now, you can get a tin, which I don't understand. I don't know if tin. I'd imagine that's a little bit newer than Social Security, but it's not exactly Social Security. But you can actually get a TIN, is what it's called, and that it's fairly decent in terms of identifying you as a person. I think there are better ways of identifying a person than tying them to a system that they weren't given consent, that they
You
were
mean like
being.
wait, you're talking about a fucking government, man. Like
Well, you have a government and you have a shadow government, which is kind of the issue.
but what does that matter then?
Well, that's
You're saying that the shadow government works in the shadows. Like
well, we're
okay,
talking
that makes
about the
sense,
elite.
but
We're talking about the elites, right? So one of the reasons why the beer virus is so successful right now is because a lot of people are pretty much unaware of even the the presence or the reality of the idea of a shadow government, which would essentially be the elites, would be the Rothschilds, the Bilderbergs, the Rockefellers, acting under the guise of other governments, like underneath those governments, in order to get their means or in order to get their way across nations. But to go back to I mean, it sounds like you're saying. I mean, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be identified, but the problem is, uh, look at RFID chips. So that's a
what
form
does
of
that have to do, what does that have to do with anything we're talking about right now?
well, it's a form of identification. So if you take it to its greatest extreme, the elites, they wanted people to be identified through RFID chips, which would mean that just like the social security number, which based off of what you're saying, yeah, the government has to be able to identify its citizens, right? Well, that would basically fall under the same umbrella, but I'm sure you would see that as overstepping, wouldn't you?
Yes, but I mean, wait a sec, dude. Now we're getting into like the kind of like, well, why don't we just tattoo somebody's social security number on their forehead or something,
I'm
right?
not.
Like
I'm
there
not
are
trying to get
oversteps, but
into.
the idea that like I just okay, how can I say this? If there's people working in the shadows to force their way into a high level of control, and I don't think that having a number attached to your name instead of just a name in the federal books um, makes a difference, right?
Well,
Like,
I don't really
y-
understand the intricacies of Social Security numbers beyond what I was saying, so I definitely couldn't tell you exactly what each number represents. So, I mean, I don't know either,
well,
honestly.
it's not about that. It's just simply a moniker to say this is an American citizen. This is your number, right? Like this is who you are according to the system.
You're not an American citizen. That's the point.
How are you not an American citizen?
So you signed up for a Social Security number, right? and you signed up for
If you are born in an American hospital, you are
right,
an American citizen, and you
and
are given
that's
a Social Security number.
as of 19. I think the Social Security Act came around, which um, from what I understand, the Social Security Act was not supposed to be used as a form of identity. However, for some reason, it actually ended up being a form of identity. Um,
Well, of course,
I mean,
like it makes sense to use it as such, but
yeah,
like
but it
you're
doesn't
you're
make sense to go beyond that and to use it for other means beyond that without giving informed consent to the citizens. That's what I'm getting at. Is that
based upon what though?
what do you mean?
I mean, it's metadata, right? At the end of the day, we're talking about what is modernly called metadata. Basic ideas and facts about a populace, and something like a social security number is simply like a way of saying like this is absolutely who this person is, and this person is not this person, right? I almost feel like when you're saying like, oh well, they used to be before social security numbers, they used to be free. I don't think that's the case. Like that doesn't make any sense because, um, again, if you're going to have as complex and far-reaching of a modern system as we have, where you can get any number of economic products from loans, capital loans, business loans. You can tie yourself up in debt. You can join the military. You can have government benefits based upon all these things. And like, again, what is stopping me from saying that I am you? What is stopping me from doing something horrible, moving to another town and changing my name? Right? Like, and back in the day, that was really kind of the standard, right? Now I understand that now, like it's kind of fucked up because um, your mistakes can follow you your whole life, right? And that's kind of an issue, I get that. Um, but let's say 200 years ago, I could go out and I could commit a series of murders and do awful shit. I could you can murder the hell out of people and um, just do any number of awful things, whatever you want to say, right? Like a murder was just an example, but whatever you want to do, right? And you can literally cut your beard, get a haircut, leave town, change your name, and like that's that, right? Like you've restarted somewhere else and you're not held accountable, right? By having like a universal moniker attached to the individual's name or being, you are holding the individual accountable to all their dealings, right? Like, if I'm a financial institution, there's no way in hell I'm going to give somebody a loan when they can just change their name and leave with my money,
Right,
you
but
know?
I'm kind of just letting you know that we had other means of identifying people back then other than the Social Security card.
And the population was literally 10% of what it is now.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
Like this is not it's not
I
sustainable.
think you're not seeing it is that the Social Security card and the Social Security system was not just created, like there were nefarious ends behind why that was given out to the populace. Now I'm seeing that at least on the surface, from what I understand, people wanted unemployment insurance.
No.
Apparently, that was a big reason for it. Um,
Now,
um,
wait a sec. I'm not trying to be like, okay, like I'll be the first to say like I jump on people who are being contrarian assholes, right? I'm not trying to do that, man. However, I'm saying like
I understand
when you when
exactly.
you when
I
you
mean,
say like this can be used for nefarious deeds, like I mean, I got multiple firearms in the room with me right now. Um, I can use them to teach people how to defend themselves and to defend myself and my family and to shoot a deer to put meat on my table. I can also go do horrible things in a crowded area. You know what
hey,
I'm saying? Like, so there's nefarious, like, you can do nefarious shit with any tool anywhere. Like, I can use a hammer to repair my wall. I can use a hammer to break down my wall. You know what I mean? Um, or commit a murder with. Like, I understand that. I understand what you're saying. It's just like this is a very nuanced thing, and to just be able to, you can't just write it off as such. Is what I'm saying. You
well,
can't just like
I think I'm the wrong person to give you this information because, like, I only have rudimentary knowledge in Social Security number and the effect that the Social Security Act has had on the United States populace. But one thing I will say about it, just in my last thoughts on it, is that um, Social Security card. I think the um, the act of branding people through a card only served other people's interests other than the United States citizens. I think it only served others more than it served the actual citizens themselves. Hey,
uh,
hey, dang.
so. I get what you're saying. I'm wondering how, like, at some point, if you really think that a government is going to rely on uh, records held by community centers and Bibles and whatnot in the 21st century with billions and billions of people extant and like this whole world has become far too complex and nuanced to for that to be even a reasonable thought. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, I mean, you hammered your point in pretty well, and I understand it. There's too many people. We have to figure out a way to identify people as efficiently as possible. It's a pretty reasonable point. I understand it, but I guess at this point, I'm going to have to. Um, I don't know. I don't think we're necessarily disagreeing with each other with this particular case. I think we're just arguing. We're talking about different things.
I suppose.
But a little bit. I mean, I don't think. Just to kind of reiterate on the birth certificate, the issue I had with the birth certificate is before the birth certificate. Again, we kind of use Bibles. I think there were other certificates that we actually use besides Bibles, like certificates of birth that actually weren't. They weren't exactly birth certificates. Which the birth certificate itself had further implications beyond just identifying the child and giving the date of birth, the weight, and everything. I believe that there is a lot more to that. That was a lot more. It was kind of, in a lot of ways, it kind of stripped a lot of rights for Americans, especially in the court systems, where if you were given a birth certificate when you were young, a lot of the rights you get, a lot of the rights that you would claim you have when you're older would not be afforded to you as a result of having had a birth certificate.
How? Well,
Because if you get a birth
well,
certificate, you know the District of Columbia. If you get a birth certificate, um, so you're actually allegedly. So as far as I understand, if you get a birth certificate, then you're actually, or So this would be actually your mother or your father. So they would actually be signing your rights away, um,
But
because
what
the
what
birth.
rights what rights exactly would you have without a birth certificate?
Well, you're born as an American citizen if you're in the
Okay.
United States. So if you sign the, I wish I could actually pull up the sites. I don't think I actually have enough information to give on this for me. I'd actually have to come back with a little more research to go a little bit further into that. I'll go further into that on the next talk.
Okay, man. Just again, like that's a really massive statement
Oh, I know.
to just apply with zero context.
Well,
But
I can give you a little bit. So the guy who was here was talking about the Vatican. So there's, from what I understand, there's three arms of the elite. There's the Vatican, the District of Columbia, then there's the I forgot the third one. But basically, you have the military arm, you have the arm that controls people, and then you have the arm that controls the economy. Oh, okay, sorry. The City of London, the Vatican, and the District of Columbia. All three of these places are basically the economic, military, and social arm of the elite. The District of Columbia being basically in Washington D.C., but the District of Columbia would actually represent not the United States interests, the United States as in the Republic. It would represent an entirely different nation within the United States, and the people who are given birth certificates would be within that system.
if the if the government wishes to if the government wishes to push some sort of initiative or something, whatever, what have you, on its citizenry, then I are you saying it's the ability of the government to identify you that like is the de facto removal of your rights?
No. So I would actually, that's not what I'm saying at all. I think there's a guy who I talked to. Um, he actually knows a lot more about the Constitution and about the District of Columbia. In the future, in the next talk, maybe I bring him up and he can try to explain it, because the way I'm explaining it is only rudimentary, and I would actually have to provide you the documents and the people associated in order to paint a better picture. I don't think I can paint that quite yet without doing a little bit more intricate research and actually bringing the research to where I can show you, like on a timeline. So we'll cover that next time. I think that's a good subject for next time.
Okay, good to go.
Um,
Do you want to
I
segue into something else, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I was gonna segue into. I'm scared to, because TikTok. I don't know why when I go to videos that have TikTok, YouTube loses its mind. Uh, this is from 21 Studios. It's talking about feminism, stuff like that. It just happens to be on one of my videos, so I'm gonna share the screen and we can see if we can find something to talk about. And this will definitely be the last subject for today.
Oh, roger that.
This was pretty good. You know, I never expect to go past an hour. Um,
Oh,
of course,
dude, I've never had
that
a
guy who
meaningful
was
discussion that's under an hour.
that guy who was here, he actually had a lot. He has a lot of good information, but um, I think I had one or two talks with him. I haven't had too many, but he's pretty knowledgeable as well. His and I don't think he'll mind me saying this. His dad was actually Delta Force, ex Delta Force, and he told me that he regretted a lot of the missions that he went on because he realized that he was fighting for reasons that were the complete opposite of what he believed he was fighting for.
Oh, I'm right there with you,
Yeah,
man.
I'm guessing you could understand that pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. Like I myself was a card-carrying member of U.S. SOCOM, and you know, we might be monsters, but we're your monsters. You know what I mean?
That sounds good.
Because the end result, dude, you got to remember, bro. Like the people who make up these organizations, um, like U.S. SOCOM and things like that, like those are people who really, really fucking believe in this country, like in ways that most people don't. In
Yeah,
ways that almost, and we believe in this country in ways that almost no young people now do.
I've noticed, man, that like a lot of the vets, they tend to vote very differently than the average people in the population,
Yeah, and
which I
and you know
always
we
thought
get a
was
little flack.
fascinating.
We get a little flack about it, but it's like, bro, like we understand. You know what I mean? Um, you might want to give us some flack for the way we think or the way we vote, but it's like, nah, bro. Like we've been in the shit. We understand. Like if you say you don't trust the government, for some whatever reason, uh, like shit, man. I can give you 100 reasons that are even better not to trust the U.S. government. you know, um, but remember, the end result here is that even with all our problems, even with all the bullshit, even with all this nasty shit going on, make no mistake, this is still the best system that has ever existed. And I think one of my biggest issues with young people now, and especially, I'm not trying to be too divisive. You know what? Being divisive doesn't even fucking matter anymore because, like, there's no way you can possibly be more divisive than what's already all over the goddamn media. When leftists talk about America, they're like, it's so frustrating because I get this all the time. Like, oh yeah, no, I know that this is I know that this is the best system that has ever existed, and um, that we have the best economy and more freedoms than anyone else. And so I'm like, okay, well, so why are you so hell bent on dicking this place up? And I get the same thing. Oh, well, we could be better. It still doesn't live up to whatever standards or something. My issue with that is it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you don't compare our country to anything that has actually ever existed. You're comparing our country to like this hypothetical fucking bullshit in your head that has never actually existed in real life. It's like, sorry, bro, but you're denying the reality of human beings at that point. Does that make any sense? You're muted, by the way.
Well, that's awful because I've been saying shit for like the past minute, for the past 10 seconds. Oh no, I'm just saying that yeah, they have this like fantastical uh, socialist uh, fantasy land where they believe that people are going to be equally miserable.
Well, I mean that can be a possibility, right? Like nobody's going to be equally prosperous, but you can definitely make people equally fucked.
Yeah, that's what they want.
I
Because
know,
I
I
mean,
know. I've heard that a number of. It's
it's just
fucking awful.
frustrating because you get the best things like all of the fun stuff that I like, entertainment, is being ruined by this stuff. Like I can't watch certain animes. No, animes are fine. I can't watch certain shows or certain movies because you get some movies like there's some football movie on Netflix where it's like the black guy who comes into the football game, now he's now people are being racist against him. Now he's got to cry in a corner, right? And now we got to feel sorry for him. It's like come on, man. Like I see it. Okay, you got to do the race model, then you have to have the transgender presenting person. Then we have to capitulate to the women. We got to show them as physically strong enough to beat up 280-pound guys. Oh, and then coming in dead last, we have to be sensitive to other. I don't know. Pick your group.
No, I know. And
Oh, and you can't be patriotic. I
yeah,
noticed
yeah.
with Netflix, you're not going to find any program. Like there's this program where they mock the founding fathers on Netflix. There's a movie where they actually mock the founding fathers, and it's kind of funny, but it's like when you watch it, it's like they gender bend some of the characters. They like make some of the characters like complete doofuses and idiots and stuff like that.
When they're actually some of the most brilliant men in history.
Yeah, brilliant if not brave, if not both.
I mean, yeah.
I mean,
I think
they represented
the proof is
like
in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding, right? Like if your ideas can produce, if your ideas can produce the most successful country in all of human history, and the most successful system to have ever existed, then like, simply put, like you did something wrong correctly. You know what I mean? Like you know what you're doing. If you can create, like the United States has created more vertical mobility, pulled more people out of poverty, and improved the lives of more people around the world than any other system to ever exist, literally ever, then like we're doing something correctly. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And this bullshit utopian ideal just does not work.
I'm gonna play this video real quick and see if we can find something slightly on a different topic. We're talking about socialism. So one of the isms that infiltrated the United States for quite a long time, quite successfully, I would say, is feminism. That's kind of wreaked havoc on
That's
the family unit.
that's true, but man, I am really suspicious of any video that has MGTOW in its title.
I don't know. I'm definitely gonna click it. I want to see what happens.
Okay, I mean, I'm just saying, dude, like it implies to, I don't know, man.
It's all right. We'll make it together.
You gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding me right now, right? Oh my goodness. Guys, how can you be so stupid? You're supposed to be doing the other bathroom. I'm sorry.
What the hell?
Oh my god, that was hilarious! I thought this was gonna be something else. This is comedy.
Serious. This isn't serious.
Well,
Literally, I'm shaking. Okay, so I was at the mall, right? And I was looking for shoes. And there's this guy, and he's like humming. He's like humming, like bouncing his head, like looking up and down at me. And I'm thinking he's going like, And oh my god. And I'm like, ew, off, like gross. Like I said it really loud too, just for some girl to look at me, and she goes, "That's my husband. He's deaf. He hums because he can't hear himself. He's not hitting on you." Oh my god.
Oh shit. Damn.
Oh. So I really, I don't know, man. This seems like we're picking on idiots, but okay.
It's just a funny video.
I get it. I get it.
My name is Tiffany, and I am a former fetus. On behalf of all fetuses, I would just like to say, please abort us. We don't want to be here.
Okay.
It's really not fair how it takes a
You
plastic
know,
bag
people can
approximately
always
20 to 100
self
years to break the down.
Huh?
I guess we can't. I don't know what we're really allowed to say on YouTube, but these people need to
Just don't talk
understand.
about politics, man. I
You
think
know,
that's
we've been
don't
talking
talk
about
about politics.
politics. We've been talking about politics the whole damn time.
No, what I mean is don't talk about certain people in politics and just steer clear of certain terms regarding what's
Okay.
going on in the present day. That's
I
kind of it.
gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm just like listening to these people talk like that last person, and I'm thinking to myself like, you always have the option to hit the power button yourself if you really feel that way. Like nobody cares that if that's how you feel about humanity, like nobody really cares that you're
You
here.
talking about the abortion chick?
Yeah, like there's always like you could always engage in a fourth or fifth trimester self-abortion if that's how you really feel.
Wouldn't it be something if kids could actually just abort themselves?
That is happening all the time, and it's awful when kids do it, but when somebody like that does it, it's they're just kind of standing by their own beliefs.
All right,
So
I'll keep going.
But it only takes one minor inconvenience for me. This is some bullshit.
Hi, excuse me? We have equality. Shitty things happen to women and men. Hi, no we don't. Shitty things happen to everyone regardless of gender, but shitty things don't happen to men simply because they're men.
I'm tired of being misgendered. Stop using sir and ma'am. And if you're going to use sir and ma'am, at least look at the person you're getting ready to say, can I help you? Before you say, can I help you, sir, to a female.
Since we're on the topic of things I don't understand, when women give birth to like a baby or whatever, how come they don't have to take a DNA test, but the guys do? Like, it just seems kind of
Okay, man. Wait a sec. This is too easy, man. This is too easy. This is shooting fish in a barrel. This is wrong.
Maybe we just need to laugh right now, man.
Dude, these people are like mentally handicapped or something. Like this is like I feel bad laughing at these people.
That was wonderful. I can't believe he said this.
I'm just like I feel bad laughing at these people at this
give
point.
birth to babies. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And how did they know like she's the mom? Like the real mom?
One more time, kid.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I've had this job for like a week and a half, right? And I made sure when they interviewed me that my sleeves were rolled up so you could see that I have tattoos to the wrist. And I've worn short sleeves to this job every day for the past almost 2 weeks. And I already worked the whole lunch shift, okay? And I left, changed, put on makeup, and came back so I could host tonight. Could they have talked to me about it before I left so that I would know what to change into? Maybe. But apparently, my tattoo of a woman is inherently explicit. I said, what about a woman's body parts are explicit? They said they just are. Bullshit. If it were a topless man, this would not be a f***ing problem. Now I need to get a
That's
long
because
sleeve
you're
shirt
50
from
pounds
somewhere.
overweight.
Because I need to cover up all of my tattoos. I'm so f***ing mad. So I guess I'll just do it for the money, right?
I'm not sure if any other girls did not know this information because I did not know it for 23 years of my life. I did not grow up with men in the house, so I've just learned something about the male body and I don't know what to do with this information.
I'm having a conversation with my boyfriend. He says, yeah, like usually in a year, I'll only buy a 12 pack of toilet paper. And I'm like, that doesn't add up at all.
He tells me that, no, he like pees in the morning and then after his coffee at work, he will go take a dump at work. So therefore he's not using really any toilet paper at home. And again, I'm like, that doesn't make sense because you're still going to the bathroom in the morning. The look he gave me was like, no, I don't need toilet paper in the morning. I'm like, yes, you do. Wait, what? So I've just learned that when men go pee, they don't, use toilet paper or anything. And probably makes me look real dumb right now, but I didn't know. I don't know what to do with this information now.
Okay, pause this. Oh wait, no. Oh my god. Let me hear this one. I'm sorry. Don't pause this.
Don't pause it.
No. Let me hear this one. Then pause it.
And I just got a new piercing, and my earring is stuck to my pillow, and I can't move my I tried to move my head, and I think I feel my ear rip off my head. Guys, I literally can't move my head. I can't move my head at all. It's just like my pillow. If I can't get off, I went to call the fire department.
No, she better.
3%, and I'm making a TikTok. Why am I gonna? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna call the fire department. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Why
So
can't
bad.
she
I
just
literally
pick
feel
up the
blood trickling in
pillow?
my ear hole. I can't move. I'm fastened to my pillowcase because I'm really scared. I want to call the fire department.
Oh,
I swear to
Jesus.
God, I've never been so terrified in my entire life.
So you gotta understand, man, and this is definitely a generalization. Women use stress or any type of like distressing situation as an opportunity to get attention.
Well, okay, let's. All right. With that statement,
No, I actually have the. So what I'm saying,
I
there's actually been research done with little girls versus little boys. The little boys and the little girls actually, so they actually behave differently in response to pain. So little boys, whenever they are in pain, they try to get rid of, like they react to the stress. Um, they react to the stress by secluding themselves by with independent behaviors, whereas the little girls, they use the pain as an opportunity to connect with others.
um so remember too, when you make a statement like that, it's you're really saying on average.
Well, yeah, that's the
On
implication.
average across the population.
Well, yeah, the idea, I mean, the implication is that, like, when I'm saying these things, it's a general truth, which is why I said in the beginning that, I'm generalizing.
Yeah, I get that.
I know it's hard.
We,
Man, but this is true. I actually had the research in a book, and I can cite it and give it to you and everything.
I get what you're saying, man.
But I'm just saying
I
that's
think
kind
like
of like this whole TikTok social
what we
media
are.
thing where people do stuff like this, where they'll like hurt themselves and put it on like a TikTok video or something like that. Uh, that's it kind of plays into that idea. It gives you a little understanding of the psychology behind it.
Uh, yeah. That said, man, like this is some really cherry picked stuff, though.
Oh, the video?
Yeah, these videos are really cherry picked, and
It's just a corny video, man. Don't take it too
no,
serious.
I get that, but I mean, you're trying to like come to a rational conclusion based upon evidence presented um in a video like this with these like obviously especially they're either especially ignorant or they're especially stupid, or in some of these cases I have to assume they're not being genuine, like it's a joke, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean TikTok. It seems like one thing that would kill TikTok is that if you took away the hearts, so they couldn't see how many people were favoriting it. No one would really give a shit about TikTok if you took that away, because our human social mechanism depends very heavily on attention from other
Couldn't
people.
you say the same thing about like any of the social media sites, you know? Like people want to
Yeah,
know that
man.
what they're doing is popular.
Yeah, if Facebook didn't have up likes, if YouTube didn't have up votes, down votes, it wouldn't really. I mean, the implications behind that are, I think, is what I want people to at least think about. I mean, at the very least, we're social creatures. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, like I remember, this is a caveat, but um, I noticed with a lot of the surveys I would give people um, in general, one of the things I noticed is that whenever I talked about a behavior that that they were likely to exhibit based off of like instincts and stuff like that, um, that was always the and indirectly, I wouldn't say, oh, well, you're gonna do this. Like, it was an indirect thing. It was like that was always the greatest point of contention, um, that I was trying to predict the person's behavior. And I thought about it, and I noticed that with a lot of people, if you tell them that they're likely to do something, they're actually going to go out of the way to prove to you that they're not going to do that thing that you told them that they were going to do. They call it the Hawthorne effect, which, um, I notice, like for Fresh and Fit, a lot of the chicks that go on that show, the guys, they'll say something like, "Hey, yeah, women do this, guys do this," and the women will be like, women don't do this," and then the guy, you'll kind of see it. It'll take like 5 or 10 minutes, but then the guys will finally break it down, and the women will say something that is basically the same thing the guy said, and then they'll be like, well, yeah, we do that."
I can get that. I've seen some of the Fresh and Fit stuff, and
that's going to change the world, man.
It's, you got to be careful. There's a difference between like understanding like the basic underlying drives between individuals, and like we talked about before, how men can R select and women can only K select, and that really creates the underlying foundation beneath the drives of human behavior.
You say that they can only R select and K select?
No, I'm saying that men can K select while women can only R select, and that kind of sets up the underlying drives, the behavioral drives between the differences between men and women. Like I would say that.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with. I mean, I think you mean women K select, men R select, but
men don't necessarily R select, but we can, and women cannot.
Well, men can only R select if they. Well, by R select, I'm meaning like as many as possible. K select meaning like trying
one
to
at
get
a time.
Monogamy. Men would rather R select than K select. They only K select if that's all they can get. But
that's not the case.
Men's sexual selection depends on the amount of social status they can. Basically, the amount of perceived importance that they can actually demonstrate to any given particular woman. Like if he can demonstrate some sort of utility.
So are you telling me that if you personally invented something that made you a billionaire, that you would go out and just start impregnating as many people as humanly possible?
I wouldn't go out and do that, but here's the thing: like the average guy, he doesn't have that choice because he doesn't have that status.
I'm asking you.
Now,
you said
well, I'm not done.
Just came out of your mouth.
Right, I'm not done. So the fact that I had that status, like basically, it kind of depends. Like, because if before that, let's say I didn't have a lot of luck with women, there's a good chance that now that there's a lot of women trying to talk to me, now that they see that I have this perceived social status and I can provide them a great lifestyle for their children, which is kind of the instinct. It's like a security instinct. Like, wow, he can provide for me. Like now that I see that there are a lot of women willing to have sex with me just merely because of an increase in social status, there's a good chance that I or a guy who would, who didn't really have much luck with that in the beginning because he was a part of the supposed 80% in that regard, would more than likely capitalize on those new situations just for the mere fact that he was in a deficit from the beginning. Now, let's assume that I was already doing just fine and I was able to attract women, all of that, even without the social status. There's a good chance that I'll K select if I get a lot of wealth and status and a lot of women like me. There's a good, because I think men who tend to start from a position of abundance, I think they're more likely to not have a fascination with R selection and tend to be more, in my opinion, they're more likely to K select. But the men who didn't have the opportunity to capitalize it, because most men really aren't viable till they're in their 30s and they actually build up enough wealth in order to be viable. It's not like a woman where like she just has to exist and everyone wants to have sex with her. Like it's a little bit different.
It's not about the act of sex. It's about children. It's about putting your genome into the future.
Well, it comes back to that though. Like they're connected.
Yeah,
Like
well,
if the guy can,
they're
if
not
the guy
connected.
can,
That's the
no,
underlying drive.
no,
That
it's
is
connect.
the basis of the underlying drive.
Well, think about it. If the guy's best opportunity to uh to get his progeny, like to propagate his genes into the future, is to acquire social status. The woman's like it's different, but the reason why I'm saying it's connected is because the men who were able to acquire a certain level of social economic status were more successful, socioeconomic status, or at least some type of utility. Like let's say a very physically strong man, his utility would be protection. A man of high socioeconomic status, so his utility would be that he could literally feed all of the children and provide a decent lifestyle for the woman. Those men were more successful at those men were more successful at passing on their genes. And if you look at history, we actually have more female ancestors than we do males, because generally speaking, most of the males were actually not successful at passing on their genes because, resources were scarce.
I mean, they also die, but
Yeah, because men were the ones who went off to war.
I mean,
And
we still are.
no, I know. I'm just saying, like in the past, like men. I mean, granted, there's something about a Supreme Court or something about how women are now like gonna be involved in a draft or something like that.
Well, I mean, they wanted equality. Here you go.
Women want perceived equality. They don't actually want to be equal to men because they don't want the accountability.
Responsibility.
Yeah, they want the good stuff that comes with it. They don't want the bad stuff that comes with it. Like they don't want to get told to tough it out and just shut up.
We have to be careful in making the statements, man, because and I understand where a lot of like what you're saying comes from, but like I've been with you when we've discussed these things with other people, and you definitely have like a 100% success rate with pissing people off. and like if that's, but I mean, think about what that means, man. If you have a 100% success rate with pissing people off, and like
my friend talked to me about this. He said that I'm not good with giving information to the people and to people in a way that they can receive, that they won't lash out. See, my friend, the way that he does it, it's funny because he says he's jealous of me because I say things the way they are, but then I tell him that I'm jealous of him because he can present information to people in a way where it assuages their egos into where they won't lash out or be angry.
Well, I mean, what you end up having to ask yourself is like, what are you actually trying to accomplish? Are you trying to get people to understand what you're saying and like, have shared beliefs? Or are you trying to piss somebody off?
I'm not trying to piss people off because I mean, a lot of times before I have these kind of conversations, like whenever I was doing my surveys at UNT, a lot of times I would, most of the time I'd actually tell them, I'd give them a precursor and say, hey, listen, I'm going to talk about things that are very controversial now. And then I would actually ask their permission to go on and have those conversations. Now, some of them actually appreciated that. But sometimes after the conversation, didn't quite work out. But
No,
I
no,
think
I get that.
I think what I needed to, I would say, based off of what you're saying, what I need to learn to do is to present an idea to someone, like basically kind of going within their defenses. I guess it's the way that my friend, like, it's weird because I'm kind of learning how he does things, and that's helping me talk to people. But then the way I talk to people, he's learning that. He actually learned that from me, saying that that was good. And he said he has a problem with the way I do things, and he wants to learn how to talk to people more like that. Um,
I mean, you
so,
can't
I mean, I would
withhold.
say it's a balance between those two elements, is what I'm getting at. Like, you have to
Yeah,
balance talking to people um, in a way where you're connecting with them and where you're like holding firm to your own truth.
okay, wait a sec. There is no your own truth. There is the truth.
Well, that's what I mean.
So,
I'm not saying that it's relativism.
yeah,
What I'm saying is that you were saying that I have a history of pissing people off. So one of the things that I've learned and that I do naturally is that I say what I believe, regardless of whether it uh, causes negative emotions or not. Um, like, for example, I noticed that whenever I was talking to, is it okay if I talk about your wife?
let's leave the family out of this completely, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll try to make an example relevant to that. So I've noticed that whenever I talk to women in particular, um, I learned fairly quickly that there's certain topics and there's certain ways of speaking that you can't really go into unless you're willing to accept the immediate negative reaction of a woman. For example, just saying general axioms to a woman generally doesn't work very well because of how their brains are wired and
Does it work well to
because
men?
of tonality. Huh?
But I mean, does
Oh, with men it works. I've noticed whenever I had the converse, because I did the surveys that I did were also done with men, and I noticed with men it tended to work fine because men process information in a different way. When you say generalizations to men, they're generally okay with it because it's how their brains process information. Women, however, women use, like, the way they process information. I think they use, so you have deductive versus inductive reasoning. So women actually use specific examples, and from those specific examples, then they develop a theory. But young boys, um, they're kind of the opposite. They develop specific ideas, or they look at individual ideas um, under the basis of, the foundation is the theory, but then after the theory, they look for examples to support that theory. Now
um
I noticed
that's that is wait a sec, bro. Like, okay, we were just talking about being really good at making people upset. Um saying that like people that a woman de facto uses reverse logic is
it's
like
just
you're in effect saying that women are stupid because only stupid ass
no,
people do that.
no
The
deductive.
only people who the
There's
only people who do
no
that don't really have a connection to reality.
there's no lack of intellect between deductive and inductive reasoning. It's simply a difference in how the brain works. Women
I disagree.
are, I mean, they're mainly right hemisphere dominant in their processing. So when you look at the right hemisphere, it focuses on creativity, emotionality. Um, uh, the sequencing is randomized sequencing in terms of like the the levels of information that they're processing. Holistic thinking. Now the left hemisphere, which is tends to be the male uh, dominant. Males tend to dominate with their left hemisphere, so that focuses on more analytical Um, it focuses on the information that comes from the left brain is more sequential in terms of the sequencing of information. So it places a very high importance with where information is placed, which is probably why when males lose things, or if a woman, let's say a woman cleans a room and she moves some of the guy's stuff, if she moves it where it wasn't, like if she puts it in a different place, the guy will lose and he won't know where it is. Because I mean, males, quite simply, males use the left hemisphere of the brain more so than the right hemisphere, whereas the average, so the average male, so the average female tends to use the right hemisphere, which is associated with different things. It's associated with different types of cognitive processing.
Mm. Um,
And
so
granted, you have some
again, like
males who
on
are right.
average in a massive
Right.
population,
It's on
I
average.
can.
So like you do have some males who are right hemisphere dominant, like Leonardo da Vinci. He was actually right hemisphere dominant, and as we know, he was very creative.
Nice.
But yeah,
And also Einstein, I believe, was also right hemisphere dominant as well. Which I mean, essentially, you can have males with essentially a female mind, but they're still males, so they still have a male processing with that particular type of slant. Which you can also have that on the other side, where you have a female who has a male, like more male typical, like left hemisphere dominant. Those women will come off as more linear and logical, and they'll probably be more interested in like math and science, for example. So that would be your women who are interested in STEM.
um, I can get that.
So so I'm kind of rounding back to what I was saying. So if you spoke to a woman, just the average woman, and actually made any particular generalizations to them, it tends to not work very well for them, and they don't like generalizations because they're holistic thinkers, and holistic thinkers uh, are very different. Holistic thinking is very different than um, thinking based off of sequencing and thinking off linear thinking. I think it's very different because if you say something, if you focus on one aspect of something, which is that male compartmentalization, if you focus on one aspect of something, it always seems as though something is missing. So when a male makes a generalization to a woman on really anything, it always kind of like there's no novelty, which the right hemisphere it looks for novelty. So that's your artists, your dancers, any type of expressive art or dance that a person would do. Um, they would be, they'd be looking to find the next new thing or something brand new. But a person who's left hemisphere dominant, they simply like they're like, no, this is the rule. You follow the rule. You know, the rule says this. The rule says this. Blah blah blah. They're very, they look at something, they follow it to the T because that's, it's very linear, logical, analytical, and the analytical mind versus the creative mind that wants novelty, which creates some of our best poets, some of our best artists. Um, they're both sides are extremely important, but that's one of the things I've learned about arguing with people who are right hemisphere dominant. Is that you have to be careful to understand that they're holistic thinkers, and that if you speak to them, you have to speak to them in a way that will allow them to find novelty. If you don't, they're not going to like the conversation.
Um, I don't know, man. Like, I gotta say, every time we speak on this subject, like I said
Actually,
before, if you have 100% success rate, and then I myself have to like kind of, um, I myself have to kind of like hold my tongue a little bit, and
I mean, you
it
have to
just,
factor in as well, Eric. Like, even though I understand certain things, uh, it, I don't know. I think talking to people a lot of times, for me in particular, is hit or miss. But um, like, hey, so for me, like, it's kind of hit or miss, and it's not something I can. Hey, hold on a second. Give me a second.
All right. If there's anybody still listening to this 3.5 hour podcast, thank you. And we appreciate you being here for this long discussion.
All right, so I don't. Can you jog me on what I was talking about?
Um, uh, Honestly, man, it's we've been at this for a long time, and I actually need to let you go.
All right, cool. Hey, so I told the guy maybe next week. Um, I'm not sure. I don't have a particular day in mind.
Okay, we'll
Let's
work it
see
out.
what. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think this was a success.
All right, man. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem, man. Take it easy.
All right, later.
All right, so yeah, I think this is the first time I did something as long as 3 hours, nearly 4 hours, for a stream. It was kind of cool. I'm kind of happy about it. Um, I think it went pretty well. So, yeah, again, for anyone watching, um, some of the information you kind of have to do your own research on. Like I talked about the left hemisphere, right hemisphere. There's information on how those two particular spheres of the brain interact in the in males and females, in humans in general. But then also the political information we were talking about. We threw out terms left and right. So um, yeah, but that's pretty good stuff. Maybe at the end of a lot of these, I'll put some of the key terms in the comment section. Um, yeah. Uh, Yeah, that's it. Am I gonna get yawn it? There's my yawn. All right, y'all.